This is the skin of a killer Bella. That's right, today we are recapping Midnight Sun. Now, 1 entire year ago, I recapped all these books. That was the first recap video I ever did on this channel. So we are going back to my origin story of Twilight, the books I really, really hate. And you know who I really, really hate in those books? Edward specifically. And you know whose point of view we're in for the entirety of Midnight Sun? Edward's. Truly, I don't know why I did this to myself, but I did, so let me go ahead and send you over to Recap Natalie to take you through the entirety of Twilight, just through Edward's perspective this time. And let me tell you, there are some really weird things that happen in this book. But, I'm gonna go get this glitter off me now, so have fun. No pictures are falling off this board this time. They've got magnets and not crappy tape. It's a big upgrade, big upgrade. Okay, let's just get into Midnight Sun, aka Twilight from Edward's perspective, aka the book that made me realize Stephenie Meyer needs to be writing horror novels from the psycho's point of view. Those would be amazing and I would rate them all 5 stars, thank you very much. But that's not the book she's writing right now, so let's start talking about Edward Cullen, a vampire who is 100+ years old sitting in the middle of a high school cafeteria because he's stuck in a 17-year-old's body. He refers to this place as purgatory because even though he is 100+ years old, he still has the attitude of a teenager, which makes me feel a little better about what happens between these two later in these books, but still don't love it. But he's just listening to everybody's inner thoughts right now because that's his special vampire power. He gets to know everybody. Right now what he gets to hear everybody talk about is the new student here, Bella. But we don't focus on that too much because we have to learn more about Edward Cullen because we're in his point of view, obviously. So we learn about who he blocks out from his constant mind reading, which is his family. 4 of his families are here. We've got Rose, Emmett, Alice, and Jasper. These are my 2 favorites. Just so we all know, I will not say a bad thing about them. Jasper does have an interesting past, but I decided to ignore that last time by accident, and this time the book also ignores it, so Stephenie Meyers realized she made a mistake. He is ever so kind to give us a little peep into what these people are thinking about. Rose is thinking about herself because she's really pretty and really vain, and that's okay. Emmett over here is just thinking about how to get Jasper to have a rematch with him because he lost the fight they had last night, and he's pretty ticked about it. Meanwhile, poor Jasper is just over here suffering because he's the newest vegetarian vampire and he is surrounded by human blood, and he would really like to drink it, but he also really wants to be a good vegetarian vampire. It's really bad right now because their family hasn't gone hunting in the woods in like 2 weeks to drink animal blood instead. So there's a higher risk of him just killing everybody in the school today, which is a fun everyday risk they have. Before we can even get into what Alice is thinking, she actually calls out Edward's name to get his attention to ask how Jasper is doing because she knows he can hear his thoughts. In response, she gets the most subtle frown from Edward. And that's because when we check back in with Jasper, he is literally picturing sucking the blood out of one of the human girls that he's staring at. So yeah, that's not great. He got a southern accent, though. Anyways, he proceeds to kick his chair to be like, dude, stop thinking that. Come on now. You're better than this. He apologizes, but Alice does assure him that she saw the future and he wasn't actually ever going to act on it because that's her special super secret vampire power. Anyways, Edward is pretty sure he hears his name called from somewhere else in the cafeteria, and his name is said by the new girl, Bella, and he locks eyes with her chocolatey brown, beautiful, get lost in eyes from across the room, and he is like, ugh, a human. And she said his name because her new friend that has taken her in, Jessica, is telling her all about the Cullen lore. Meanwhile, Bella is still just staring at Edward because she so obviously thinks this man is insanely pretty. And Jessica over here is already annoyed because she not so secretly wants to be with Edward as well. Edward knows this because he can read minds. Jessica's fully spiraling at this point, wondering why all the boys seem interested in Bella. Because she's not even that cute, and she's really, really annoyed that Mike is interested in Bella because she's interested in Mike. If you forgot who Mike Newton is, he's one of the guys in the friend group over here. He's the very stereotypical high school jock, and that's about his whole personality. Edward just decides to turn back to his table because he's done his job. He's checked to see if they're talking about the Cullen family in a way that would make them seem like vampires, but they're not. Edward turns his attention away from that to report to his family at the table that They're just telling Bella the normal Cullen gossip. There's nothing all that interesting and nothing that is pointing to them being vampires. He does want to know what Bella is thinking about what they're telling her, so he tries to read her thoughts. Keyword being try, because when he reaches out to find her thoughts, he finds nothing. Her head is empty. Now, could we argue that that is just Bella's brain? Yes, but no, it's not. He's now worried that he's having a problem with his power. Maybe it's fading, something's going wrong, he doesn't know. He continues to try harder and harder, convinced that something can't actually be going wrong with his power, it has to be okay. But all the other voices are flooding in, but still not hers. No, she's special. But he does hear her out loud ask about the reddish brown-haired boy at the table, that red-haired brown boy being Edward. This comment just sends Jessica into a whole other rant in her head how Bella would have no shot with Edward. My shirt begs to differ. Edward also begs to differ because all of a sudden he feels weirdly protective over Bella. He doesn't know why. He hasn't even actually met her, but she just seems so innocent. But he really doesn't think anything more of those emotions, and this is where we get to biology class, and if you know this story, you know this is where all the fun starts to happen. Bella comes into biology class, led by Angela, one of the other friends in this little friend group that took her in. Side note, Edward thinks Angela is a very, very nice person, and he has nothing but respect for her. Just wanted you to know that. We all love Angela, even Edward. I don't normally side with Edward on everything, but Angela is a sweetheart. Anyways, the only open chair in this biology class is next to Mr. Cullen himself. So of course, Bella is gonna have to sit right next to him. Now, Edward doesn't even really pay attention in this class at all because he has 2 medical degrees already. He can do this work without thinking about it, so he's like, sure, somebody random sitting next to me, not a big deal. But he is panicking because even in this small classroom with less people around, he still can't hear her thoughts, and he doesn't know why, and this is really freaking him out. And he needs to go talk to Daddy Carlisle about it. No. Okay, he needs to go talk to Carlisle about this. I hate the internet. Now, Carlisle isn't actually their dad, he's just the fake dad. He just kind of is the one that turned them all into vampires, making his own little coven of vegan, super cool vampires. Well, actually, scratch that. He did not change Alice and Jasper. They just kind of showed up. But let's not get too sidetracked by this because this is the moment where Bella comes in and then this AC unit starts to blow her scent, or I guess heater. It's very cold in Forks, Washington. I remember this time. Forks, Oregon? Wyoming? Seattle? Forks, Seattle. No, that's Forks, Washington. But anyways, this unit blows her scent right into Edward's face. And Edward, at this moment, contemplates killing every single person in this room just to drink her blood because she smells so delectable. He is gripping onto this desk, breaking chunks off of it to not just jump at her and kill her right now. Romance. Poor little Bella has no clue all of this is going on and just sits down next to this guy pulling this face over here, and she's like, okay, he does not like me for some reason and I have no clue why. Meanwhile, Edward over here is plotting the best way to kill everybody in this classroom before they can raise too much commotion and call more attention to this. He knows that this will mean his whole family has to run out of Forks for a while, but it might just be worth it if he can drink her blood. He takes us through detailed murder scene after detailed murder scene, again and again and again, and this is why I think Stephanie Myers is wasting her potential on these stupid vampire books! These scenes were so fascinating, and you're making me read about a sparkling vampire? No. Go pull some Stephen King stuff right now. I'm not saying she would be that good, but maybe. He does refocus himself and starts thinking about what this would do to his family again. And he's like, no, I can't do that to them because then we would all have to restart high school, and that would be awful. He's not wrong, but I just love the logic. Edward decides to make it through this class. He's gonna go full vampire mode and just completely stop breathing because that's something he can do. So he's just sitting there, not breathing, with this type of face on the entire time, just focusing on his family so he doesn't murder this girl, being disgusted with the monster that's inside of him. He separates this monster side of himself from his actual self to excuse all the dark thoughts he's having, and he's like, no, me and the monster inside of me are different people. Yeah. Meanwhile, Bella just sits down and says hi, and he doesn't say a single thing. So she just kind of sits there and turns her body away from him. At one point during class, she shakes her hair out, and this guy goes, "What, is she insane?" Because this is driving him even more crazy, and he has this burning sensation in the back of his throat that just gets worse by this. It's that sensation of you're just so thirsty after you've been outside for a long time without water. That's what he's feeling times 100 right now. This causes him to build a hatred towards Bella in this moment, because why does she have to exist? Why is she here in Forks, Michigan? No, Washington. Dang it! Stupid. Sorry, what? And it doesn't get any better because he knows this will be an ongoing problem. He is stuck in this class. So if he murders her, then he screws up his whole family dynamic over here and they all have to run away, and he really doesn't want to do that. But he's gonna have to deal with that every day. So he has to figure out a way to get out of this class. Maybe he just has to leave his whole family behind. He doesn't know. He's going through every possible scenario that will save this girl from getting killed by him. But also he's thinking that maybe he just doesn't kill her at school and sneaks over to her house afterward and kills her there. And then they can be like, uh-oh, who did that? I don't know. But somehow this boy makes it through the entire class, and as soon as that bell rings, he runs out of there as fast as normal human speed as possible. He goes straight to his car to put on his favorite CD and just relaxes in there, away from the scent of Bella, this evil, awful girl who showed up at school. And this is when he starts thinking a little more clearly. He's like, look, okay, the plan of just avoiding her is probably the better plan. Let's focus on that. Let's work on that. So he walks himself over to the little campus office, to the little receptionist that has a crush on him. Mind you, he looks 17. All this receptionist knows is that he's 17, so the receptionist also creepy. There's a lot of creepy people in these stories, but whatever. But I can't excuse it, but like, we gotta move past it. I can't keep focusing on this. It'll haunt my nightmares. But anyways, he goes over there and he's like, yo, office lady, can you get me out of biology? Like, can you put me in any other class, please? And the campus lady is like, sorry, can't do that. We don't have anything else available. And he's trying to argue with her on this, but there is nothing else. And he continues to argue with her on this. And then Bella walks in and he's like, I gotta go. I gotta go right now. I'm gonna kill you and I'm gonna kill Bella, and that's not what I wanna do. And he goes straight back to his Volvo. The rest of his family gets there. Alice is wondering what is going on, but he just throws the car into reverse because he is getting away from this school right now. Everybody else in the car is just staring at Alice because they know she can see the future, and then out loud she just goes, oh, because in her vision, she just sees Bella Swan dead. He can read thoughts, which includes seeing people's mental pictures. I have aphantasia. I can't visualize anything, so this is really confusing to me. But anyways, he sees this vision as well, and he knows he needs to leave. Basically, everybody in the car agrees with this, but they also think he should go say goodbye to Carlisle first before he does this. But he just pulls over, gets out of the car, and goes. He doesn't have a plan right now. Maybe he'll stay here and kill Bella. Maybe he'll go talk to his dad. Maybe he'll run away like he should. 3 very normal options if you ask me. Anyways, hard cut here. We are now in the Denali wilderness and he is just staring up at the stars. Okay, look. He's sitting there all quiet, and then Oh no. And then Tanya shows up. I'm so sorry, Tanya. Anyways, this other vampire, Tanya, shows up. And she's coming over to sit next to him, but she can't do this in a normal way. No, she has to go over there, leap up into the air, and cannonball into the snow, because this is like in Alaska or something. They're real far out there. Canada, maybe? Who knows? But this doesn't entertain him at all because he's feeling really emo right now because he has to deal with this monster that's inside of him that wants to kill Bella. They end up talking a little bit more about how he's probably gonna go home soon, how she knows she makes him uncomfortable because she would like to be with him, but he doesn't want to be with her. He assures her it's just a him thing because she is a lovely person, clearly. And poor Tanya over here really thought when Edward just randomly showed up out of the blue he had changed his mind, but no, he's just moping over a girl he can't kill. He then just leaves so he can stare up at the sky some more, and then he starts seeing Bella's chocolatey brown eyes in between the stars, just staring right back at him, making him think that is his decision to go back and be with his family going to end her life. Maybe. Then BAM! He's walking into the cafeteria with Jasper. I'm gonna Weird mood today, folks. The whole Cullen family is on guard because Edward over here might just murder everybody at any time now. It's not just Jasper they have to worry about. No. Now it's Edward too. Okay, I deserve that. This poor family has a lot of stuff going on. I am erasing that. That is terrifying. I will not make anybody look at that for that long. But they just sit at their normal spot. Alice assures them that when Bella comes in, she won't be sitting downwind from them, so he won't just randomly get her scent and then jump out of his chair and start a horror movie, which might have been more fun. He starts listening into everybody's thoughts around the cafeteria again, thinking that Bella would have mentioned how strange he acted during biology, but it seems like she said nothing because none of the students are thinking about that. And he's really confused because he knows that he was being really freaking weird. They make it through lunch without any big incident. There was a moment where Bella was just staring at Edward. When Edward looked at her, she looked away really quickly, and then she went back to talking with Jessica, and she's like, yeah, I don't think he likes me very much. And Jessica was like, yeah, the Cullens don't really like anybody, it's fine. At the end of lunch, they're debating if he should go to biology class because that kind of seems like a bad idea. I'm gonna sneeze. But Alice assures him that his future is set. He can go to biology class and he will not kill Bella today. When he gets there, Bella is already in biology class in her assigned seat. He goes over, she doesn't say anything. He's confused at first, then remembers what happened the first time they met, and he's like, oh yeah, right, I was a jerk. So he decides at this moment, no, they're not just gonna sit here in silence. He's gonna talk to her. So he puts on this little smile and goes, hi. She's too startled by this and doesn't even say anything, so his inner monologue just goes on about the color of her eyes for way too long. He talks about her chocolatey brown eyes more than any other man talks about brown eyes in any other book. And mind you, this is after I've read Powerless with the yapper himself, Kai Azur. And that man talks about Peyton's eyes all the time. They're not brown, but still. Don't let those two get in a room together. They will just yap about their girls until the end of time. Oh, also in this moment, he feels the hate he had for her just evaporate from him. He decides that she's not gonna say anything to just continue talking. So he just introduces himself as Edward Cullen, apologizes for not having a chance to introduce himself last week, and says that she must be Bella Swan. She's wondering how this guy knows her name. He's like, you're the new kid in school. Of course I know your name. Everybody's talking about you. She goes, no. Why did you call me Bella? Her full name is Isabella. That's what most people call her when they first meet her. So him just saying Bella randomly doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But also at this point, her whole friend group is calling her Bella. I feel like the teachers would be calling her Bella. It's not that out of character. But anyways, Edward is panicking. He's like, oh shoot, I just revealed that I can read people's minds by calling her Bella. My guy, calm down. They move past this huge mistake he's made, and at this point he is out of breath. So he's forced to take another breath in, which means he will inhale her scent. He makes it through this breath, even though there's this fresh burning sensation in the back of his throat. Everybody give the vampire a round of applause for not killing her, even though he breathed in her scent. Yay, Edward. Golf clap. I feel a little bit dead inside after talking about this for only like 20 minutes, but continue on we go. Anyways, it is microscope biology experiment day. I was homeschooled. I didn't have one of those. Wait, I did. Because my mom was a good homeschool mom. High five, Mom. This microscope thing is way too easy for both of them because they're both nerds. It's actually because he has 2 medical degrees and she has already been through this course back in her other school, but she was forced to take it again here. So they have time for small talk. She goes on about how she hates forks because it's cold and wet, and he basically demands her to tell him why she even moved here. Why did she have to move here is his inner dialogue. All she gives him is, it's complicated, but he's like, no, trust me, I can keep up. You're gonna tell me all your secrets right now. Thank you very much. She starts going into the whole story about how her mom started dating this baseball player, and she wants to travel around the country more with her baseball player boyfriend, stuff like that. So her child, Bella over here, decided to take it upon herself to get herself out of her mother's way so her mother could live her best life, and moved up here with her chief of police father, Charlie. Even though she really hates the wet and cold because she's from Arizona and it's hot and dry there. Edward kind of calls her out on this, being like, you didn't have to do that. That's your mom. What? And she's just doing her best to assure him that she's actually happy to be here. But he pushes back on this and she's like, why does this even matter to you? He's like, fair point, okay. This leads us back into his inner monologue of him questioning himself on why he is getting to know this girl, which is just putting his family more at risk, because if they are seen hanging out and something happens to her, fingers could be pointed towards him. And this snowballs into him thinking about if he breathed through his nose and got a good sniff of her scent, he might just kill her right now because of the monster inside of him. He is the king of not taking accountability for his own actions. Bella takes his silence the completely wrong way and she's like, am I annoying you? And he's smiling because, no, she's not annoying him. He's just thinking about killing her. And she's just annoyed that he's not answering her question. She goes on to explain she's not really annoyed at him, she's just annoyed that she is so easy to read. He laughs at this because she is the one person he can't read. And he says out loud, I find you very difficult to read. She responds saying, you must be really good at reading people, and he's like, haha, yeah, I am. Then they proceed to sit there just kind of smiling at each other, and he's wondering why she isn't afraid of him, because the normal human instinct of seeing something that isn't quite right is fear. But no, she sees all these vampire signs and she's like, yeah, chill, that's good. I think he's cute. And this is the start of a very slippery slope for him, of him finding Bella Swan interesting. And this is very, very dangerous for her. You don't want the killer guy to find you interesting. You want to be the least interesting person to them. But uh-oh, poor Bella, she is fascinating. And this is when Bella decides to toss her hair, just tempting fate right now. And he has to lean as far away as possible and stop breathing completely to not, you guessed it, kill her. Now look, I know I'm saying that a lot, YouTube. Please don't demonetize me. I would really appreciate that. But anyways, they say it basically that much in the book. It is every other page of him being like, man, I really hope I don't cause a horrible accident to happen to her. Then, once again, as soon as the bell goes off, he flees the classroom. He goes off to his next class to find Emmett waiting outside of the classroom for him. He asks how it went. Edward's like, yeah, it went fine, no one died. Emmett just fills Edward in that Alice left their last class pretty abruptly, meaning that there was a high percentage of the futures that Alice saw ending with Edward killing Bella because of her tossing her hair. He starts to kind of panic because he didn't realize he was that close, but Emmett's like, dude, would it really be that bad? She's just one human girl. Sometimes a human just smells too good. I mean, look at you. You've lasted this long. You're fine. And this is because Emmett has some personal experience with a human just smelling really good, and he's acted on that instinct every single time. After Emmett retells these stories, Edward has had enough of today, and he once again runs out to the car to listen to his peaceful music CD and sit in silence and contemplate his life, knowing that Emmett will make up an excuse for him to the Spanish teacher. Now, Edward knows he should use this time for something else, but he is an addict at this point. So he goes and finds Mike Newton's brain so he can go and spy on Bella in gym class. Mike Newton over here is just obsessing over the fact that Edward and Bella were talking, but he just assures himself it's fine. She didn't really seem to like him anyway, so we're good. It's all good. He's still got a shot with the new girl from Arizona. He just continues to spy on her all through gym class this way, and then once the gym class is over, he gets out of his car just kind of standing in the parking lot hoping that she'll maybe come over to him. She doesn't. She just goes over to her beat-up red Chevy truck. And when she's looking around, getting ready to back out, she locks eyes with him in her rearview mirror. And she's now too focused on Edward's eyes in her rearview mirror. When she starts backing out, she almost hits another guy. Luckily, she stops herself before she actually does, though. After this incident, she backs out very slowly. Edward can't help but laugh at this situation because this girl being dangerous to anybody is hee-hee-ha-ha funny. I have never said that before in my life. Why now did I decide to? Ooh. The migraine hitting hard. Don't worry, I had a migraine pill. I'm okay. I'm just a little, we can tell. Cut to later that night. He doesn't really need to hunt, but he's gonna hunt to make sure that he can keep Bella as safe as possible because he does kind of want to get to know her because she seems pretty interesting. And also we get to spend some scene time with our favorite vampire, Carlisle. We all love Carlisle. I'm not saying what I said earlier about him again, though. No. They're hunting, remembering his hasty goodbye to Carlisle a week ago. And going over why he came back, basically he didn't want to feel like a crybaby, but Carlisle is assuring him if they all need to leave Forks to ensure this one human's safety, they can do that for him. Rosalie will be really upset, but it'll be fine. She'll calm down. But Edward insists that he wants to stay here. Carlisle's like, why? Because it doesn't make any sense. And honestly, Edward doesn't even really know. But I mean, we know the reason he really needs to stay because he's secretly in love with Bella Swan. He just hasn't admitted that to himself yet. They finish up their hunting and Carlisle leaves Edward alone with his thoughts. Which lets Edward come to the wonderful decision that he really should leave to spare Bella's life. He is so set on this by the time he gets back to the house, Alice is asking, "Are you leaving?" She doesn't want him to do this, so she shows off the vision she had of him in this beautiful meadow showing off his shiny, sparkly vampire skin. He's confused on what this means and why this means he should stay. She's explaining his future is constantly shifting right now. Nothing is set in stone. He's not destined to kill Bella. He can still have a completely different outcome. And once she assures him that she doesn't see him killing anybody today because they were hunting all night, it's the next day, he decides to stay a little bit longer. So we're back at school. The roads are a little bit icy. We all know what this means. Bella is driving there very cautiously in her truck. Then she walks very cautiously around to the trunk of her truck to get her bags out of there, I guess. And then, all of a sudden, Tyler's car comes skirting through the ice on a crash course right into Bella that would surely kill her. But Edward was just watching her like a creepy stalker, and he uses his vampire speed, rushes over there, gets her out of the way, is holding the car up from crushing her, and then gets her leg out from under the car, lets the car drop. Once she's out of danger, he realizes that was a mistake. He just exposed his family. But also, if Bella would have been hit by this car, she probably would have started bleeding, and that would have also exposed the family. So he's now just hoping that nobody saw him move super, super fast. He checks in with her. She's assuring him that she's okay, even though she did hit her head pretty hard still. Edward honestly kind of made sure of that, so if she said anything super crazy about him getting there super fast, they could be like, "Oh, she hit her head so hard, she got a concussion." But she's already asking him how he got over here so fast because she saw him next to his car right before this happened. Edward, with his super smart, massive brain, goes, "Nuh-uh, I was standing right next to you, Bella." They proceed to just go back and forth on this for a little bit, but she eventually agrees to drop it for now, making him promise that he will explain it all later. At this point, the ambulance has arrived. It takes Bella and Tyler to the hospital. Edward is like, "Nah, I'm good. You guys know me because my dad works at the hospital," so he drives to the hospital by himself. Charlie gets to the hospital pretty quickly after they arrived, and Edward is now wondering if he hit his head pretty hard too or something because he can't seem to get a good grasp on Charlie's thoughts. Then he realizes that's just always been the case. He can only kind of get the idea of what Charlie is thinking about, not the exact details or word to word of what he's saying. Edward goes off to find Carlisle to explain the situation to him, which is good because Carlisle was kind of wondering if Edward attempted murder today, but luckily he did not today. Woohoo! He explains the whole weird car accident situation to him and also the fact that Bella probably knows too much right now, but assures him that she hasn't said anything yet. Edward is now just using Tyler's thoughts to spy on Bella like normal because he's a creepy stalker vampire over here. Anyways, when Tyler asks Bella how she got out of the way and how she didn't get hurt, she just explains Edward was next to her and pulled her out of the way. He eventually gets bored of just sitting in Carlisle's office though, so he goes off to get a sneak peek at Bella's x-rays. And her head looks fine. She didn't get a massive concussion. She's not gonna die. Woo! Then Carlisle comes over and he's agreeing that her head also looks good, but notes all the contusions on her brain scan and says, "I wonder how much she got dropped as a baby." And Edward just has to explain, honestly, this girl just has really bad luck and is insanely clumsy. While they're having this little discussion, they decide that Edward will go in first to talk to his classmates, blah, 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 the normal stuff, make it all very natural, then Carlisle will come in to do the final exam, basically. When Edward gets in there, Tyler starts profusely apologizing about what happened, and he's like, "No, you're good, it's fine, it's whatever." Bella is just wondering why Edward isn't strapped to a gurney like the rest of them, but he's like, "Dude, my dad's the head of the hospital. I got special privileges here, yo. I don't know why I'm making him talk like this. Somebody make me stop." Then Carlisle comes in, does the final checkover of Bella, assures her that she's good, and just tells her to take it easy for the day. And she's now good to go to find Charlie in the waiting room. But before she goes and finds her father, she turns to Edward and she's like, "Can I speak to you for a minute?" Edward really doesn't want to have this conversation right now, so he's like, your father's waiting for you." "Sorry, Edward, you just did something really freaking weird. You're not getting off that easy, okay?" Obviously, she doesn't drop this, so he decides to be really rude here and make this his final goodbye to Bella. Because he does stupid stuff when he's around her. He does this by not giving her an explanation, going in on the fact that she's just crazy and she hit her head, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Mocking her for thinking that he could lift a van off of her. Because that's insane! But she's standing firm on what she saw, and he just tells her nobody will believe it. She's fuming at this point, and she's like, I'm not going to tell anybody. I just want to know. This girl is just so curious and just wants to find out. She literally won't tell anybody about this. She just wants to know the truth. She doesn't like being lied to. But he continues to be rude, not giving her an actual explanation for any of this, and they part ways. Edward actually ends up going back to school, but Bella doesn't. She goes home to rest for the day, and he is yearning to be around her. And this is when he admits that he is obsessed, like a stalker. Like a vampire stalker. I have nothing to add to that. He summed it up very well. He is an obsessed vampire stalker. A little later, Emmett comes over to casually warn Edward that Jasper over here is plotting to kill Bella. Why did I say at the start of this that Jasper can do no wrong? Anyways, Jasper is plotting to kill Bella because if Edward and her start hanging out too much and then he kills her, a lot of suspicion is on their family, so it's better if Jasper just does it in a super secret assassin way. Edward's like, yo, what the heck? And starts thinking about this some more and realizes he would fight his family to protect Bella, and that's a problem. He doesn't know who else would join him in protecting Bella besides Alice, because Alice has also seen herself as becoming Bella's best friend, so she also already cares for Bella. That evening, back at the Cullen house, they all have a meeting about this whole Bella situation, and Edward's like, yo, you're not gonna kill Bella, I'm just gonna run away, and then everybody can live their normal life still, and it'll be fine. But some people, Jasper, are still talking about killing Bella. And eventually Carlisle's like, okay, let's stop talking about that, please. Because I would like to be a good vampire and every life is precious. So we're not gonna kill her and we're not gonna have Edward run away right now. We're just gonna wait and see what happens and then we will act. And if it's necessary for Edward to go anywhere, the rest of us will just go with him. Jasper isn't fully convinced after Carlisle's speech, but Alice is like, please don't kill my future best friend. I would like her to be my future best friend and not dead. Thank you. And because they're in love, that convinces him. Alice clearly starts to get a vision, so Edward peeps into her brain to see what she's seeing, and he just says, no, because he sees Bella as a vampire or her dead. And he's asking Alice, is there no other option? There is no other option that Alice is seeing right now. So Edward is right back on the train of thought of that he needs to leave to protect Bella, but Alice tells him, I don't think you can just leave her. You will always come back. He's not understanding why he would do this, and Alice has to kind of gently be like, so you're gonna be madly in love with her and you kind of already are, so that's why you can't just leave her alone. The whole family kind of just standing there going, that's gonna be really complicated. And Edward is just too focused on Bella. Mind you, they haven't even talked that much. They've had like 2 conversations, but he just makes this growling no because he's so upset by these outcomes. And then he runs out of the house because he believes that being a vampire takes your soul away, meaning that you can't go to a heaven or hell. These are Christian vampires, by the way. They kind of believe in that. Well, they're not really all Christians. Carlisle is, so they all have this slight belief in heaven and hell. Anyways, I mean, to be fair, coming from a Christian perspective, I would also be really pissed off if I just got stuck on Earth forever and you told me I couldn't go to heaven. I'd be like, hey, yo, please let me up. So, like, I get where he's coming from, but also, actually, it's just a valid existential crisis he's having right now. Cut back to high school. Edward no longer says that it's purgatory. No, it is now hell, which is what most high schoolers call it anyway, so good job. You're really creative, buddy. We're back in biology. She says hello. She's being friendlier than normal. He's wondering why she's being like this right now. He doesn't really get an answer to that, so he does his normal after-school run to get the stress out of his system and runs all the way to Seattle, which is about a 3-hour drive from Forks, I believe, and back to Forks. This doesn't take him much time at all because he's really fast. Then we're thrown into this montage of his emotions. Basically, he's really thirsty when he's around Bella because she's just, no, I'm kidding. It's like vampire thirst. There's a burning in the back of his throat. He really wants some water. If you're type 1 diabetic and you've had a high blood sugar, I imagine it's like that, but maybe worse. But honestly, is there anything worse than that? I don't know. I'm saying this because my blood sugar is high right now. I'm working on it, okay? He's also wondering why Bella hasn't said anything about the accident to anybody. There's a lot of things going on in this poor teenage 100-year-old's head. But the thing that's tormenting Edward the most is the fact that Bella is ignoring him, just like he's ignoring her. The double standards, my guy, the double standards. Cut to the present day right now. Mike Newton is planning to ask Bella out to prom. Not prom, the Sadie Hawkins dance, basically. It's supposed to be the girl's choice dance, but Bella hasn't asked anybody, so Mike is taking it upon himself to ask her. Bella does deny his request, but this doesn't really make Edward feel any better because he knows one day Bella will end up with somebody like Mike Newton, a normal human being. But while she was declining this date to the dance, she mentions that she's going to Seattle that Saturday. They get to biology class later that day, and Edward has decided he's had enough of not talking to Bella, so he just says her name. She asks, "Are you talking to me again?" And he goes, "No, not really." Be so for real right now. How Bella falls in love with this guy will always be a mystery to me. Yeah, cool. He may be really, really attractive, but he doesn't have a speck of a personality. Okay, neither does Bella, so I guess they're a perfect match. He just explains the reason that he won't be talking to her is because it's better for her if he doesn't. Which, yeah, he's not wrong, but like, she doesn't know that. She doesn't know you're a vampire, so this doesn't make any sense to her. She then just starts ranting about how he probably regrets saving her life. He is flabbergasted because that is so far from the truth, but she is set on the fact that he regrets this. That's basically the end of that conversation for them. But Edward does learn, not from her, just from listening to people, special power, woo, that Eric, another one from the friend group, and Tyler are planning to ask Bella to this dance because Mike got denied. He witnesses Eric getting rejected first in the parking lot and can't help but laugh at this. And now Tyler is running out to catch Bella before she pulls out of the parking lot. And to make sure Tyler can ask her out, Edward pulls out his car to make sure Bella can't back out of her parking space. So Tyler catches up, asks her out, and gets declined as well. He lets her get out of her parking spot after this and is shaking in the car with laughter. Because this is the funniest thing he's ever seen, and the expression on her face was the cherry on top. When Alice gets to the car, she's just hoping that this means she gets to talk to Bella now, because she knows they're gonna be best friends in the future. But right after she says that, Edward gets really serious again, and he's like, no, what's the point if we're just gonna end up killing her, even though that's not what he wants to do? But Alice does admit that Edward has a point, because even though he doesn't want to do it, he does have crazy vampire senses and may just act upon them one day, who knows? This is normally the time of day he now goes for his after-school run, but today he decides to hunt. And while he's hunting, he starts thinking about all the horrible things that could happen to Bella, like a meteorite just falling into her room because she is so accident-prone, danger-prone at this point. And it gets to a point where he gets so concerned, where he ends up running all the way to her house to spy on her. And, it gets worse, because then he decides he can't just watch her enough from outside. He has to go into her room. So he climbs through her window and watches her sleep and listens to what she's saying in her sleep. And now he's just staring at her, wondering how he ever thought she was an average girl, because she is absolutely stunning. And he couldn't bear the idea of hurting her. And while he's thinking this, she then says his name in her sleep, then lets out a sigh and says, "Edward, please don't go." And this is where the fact that he truly loves Bella starts to sink in. It's so cute, right? Right? And he knows that this feeling will never leave, because all the vampires that he knows, whenever they fall in love, it never stops feeling like a first love. Like the first few months that you're dating where you're in that honeymoon phase. Vampires are constantly in that honeymoon phase, which must be a nightmare for him in this house with 3 couples. He calls this love almost obsessive, and let's be honest, this relationship in this book is very obsessive. It's not almost, it's obsessive. But we'll get into the nitty-gritty of their relationship in a little bit, because it is coming at us full speed ahead. We are almost there. We're almost to them in a relationship. That's so cool. But hey, we still have vampire baseball to look forward to later in this video. I'm excited to talk about that. Anyways, he's now just sitting there contemplating if loving her will be enough to stop him from killing her. This is a very normal thing to contemplate when you're first getting into a relationship. Obviously, it's not. Let's be clear on that. He gets up before she wakes up, runs to school the next morning, meets up with his family. Then when she gets there, he goes over to her. She drops her keys in a puddle. He bends down, picks them up, and hands them over to her. They start talking about the little traffic jam they had in the parking lot last night, and he reveals that he did that so Tyler could ask her out. She comes to the conclusion that he must be trying to irritate her to death since Tyler's van didn't do the job. He doesn't take this as a joke, though, for some reason, and snaps at Bella, telling her she is utterly absurd. Bella, just leave. Sorry, leave. Get out. Please, run now. I know you won't, but please. He does pretty much instantly apologize for being rude, so that's something, I guess. She's asking why he won't just leave her alone at this point. And he's like, I just wanted to ask you something. Then he gets sidetracked by something he's thinking about and starts laughing. Bella, at this point, just straight up asks this man, do you have multiple personality disorder? And honestly, he probably does. He listens to a lot of people's brains all day. He also sees where she's coming from because his moods have been erratic the last few days. But he just keeps going on and he's like, you know, the Saturday of the spring dance, she starts to interrupt him, but he's like, no, let me finish. I was just gonna ask you if you wanted to ride with me to Seattle because I had to go there anyways that day. He didn't, he's lying, but you know, he wants to hang out with Bella. But she just admits she's confused because she was pretty sure he didn't even want to be her friend. He's just like, look, I said it would be better if we weren't friends. I didn't say I didn't want to be your friend. Thank you, Edward. That really clears things up for her. That's much less confusing. After a little more assurance that he actually does want to be her friend, he asks her again if they can go to Seattle together. And she says, yes. Right after this, he says, you really should stay away from me. And then goes, I'll see you in class. But he's not going to see her in class today because today is the day they're doing the blood typing testing in class. So everybody's poking their finger to get a little blood. And that would be a really bad idea to have a vampire in the room, you know? There's not one type 1 diabetic at the school. I can guarantee you that much, or these kids would not be able to go there. Is this something they have to look for when they're going to a school? They're like, any type 1 diabetics who will be poking their fingers all the time? No? Okay, cool. If Bella was a type 1 diabetic, she would have died the first day because she would have a low blood sugar or something during biology, poke her finger, and Edward would go. The rest of the day, he proceeds to just follow Bella around through other people's eyes, but not Mike Newton's because he doesn't like how he views Bella as just another girl or something. He's a teenage boy. We all know, we know what he's thinking. Okay, our head's in the gutter. We all know. And all he really learns today is that Bella is really clumsy. Yes, we couldn't just leave that in the Twilight book. This is a key part of her character. Might I say, this is her one personality trait. Oh, Bella, you are a special, special girl. Then at lunch, Edward goes and sits from a different table from his family, all by himself. Rose is pissed, and Alice is just wondering if she gets to talk to Bella now, but it is still a big fat no! When Bella walks into the cafeteria, Edward just waves her over. He's like, hey, sugar, you wanna come sit at my lunch table? They have an awkward conversation over lunch with him basically being like, look, I can't just ignore you anymore. So they agree to be friends, but he doesn't think that that's a strong enough word to describe their relationship. Dude, bro, you've had 5 conversations max. Let's slow it down a little. She doesn't watch you sleep every night. She's not connected like that to you. Then they get on the topic of her theories about what he is. She doesn't want to tell him any of her theories because they're all really stupid in her head, but after a lot of begging and a lot of pleading, eventually he gets her to tell her just one. She goes the stereotypical comet route and asks if he was bitten by a radioactive spider. No. He also mentions that he doesn't have a weakness to kryptonite here. After this, he's like, maybe you should just stop trying to figure out what I am because what if I'm not the good guy? What if I'm the bad guy? And all she says is, oh. And eventually, after her 5 conversations with Edward that she's had, she goes, you're not bad, just dangerous. Dangerous if you're one of us. His inner monologue right now is literally rooting for Bella to run away from him. But no, she doesn't because she's so freaking stupid. She is the dumbest female protagonist in any book ever. And I've read a lot of bad books, but she is still the dumbest. Finally, this lunch hour is up, and she goes to biology class alone because, again, blood, he can't go. And after she leaves, he grabs the lid from the drink she was drinking and puts it into his pocket. I'm sorry, is this Twilight or a Netflix original TV show? Honestly, both. It has the energy of both. I'm sorry, that's offensive to Netflix original TV shows. Edward's now just chilling in his car during biology period when all of a sudden he hears Mike Newton freaking out that Bella is about to pass out. So, of course, Edward over here jumps out of his car, runs over to them at like kind of human speed, and grabs Bella from Mike, who is taking her to the office because apparently she passes out at the sight of blood. And Mike's pretty annoyed because all of a sudden he doesn't get to carry the cute girl anymore and Edward took over. Of course he did, that stupid guy. And then her and Edward are now just sitting in the nursing room. This is where she reveals that the smell of blood makes her pass out, which is weird because blood doesn't have a smell to most humans. Has Stephanie Meyer ever been around blood? Because it has a smell. I say that because I'm around blood a lot, or I used to be until I got a Dexcom. I'm talking a lot about type 1 today, but we're talking a lot about how blood shows up, and that's where my brain goes. I'm sorry. This is just my life. I've been a type 1 diabetic since I was 3. I don't know why we're going into this explanation right now, but like blood has a smell. Anyway, she compares the smell to rust, which is kind of what I would say too. And Edward over here is like, humans can't smell blood. Is this a thing? Can humans not smell blood? Am I destined to be a vampire? Please no. Before they can really get into any deeper conversations though, Mike Newton comes barging into the room asking if Bella is coming to the beach with them this weekend, clearly not inviting Edward to this gathering. She is, and Mike Newton just walks away wondering what she sees in this freak. And he feels like Edward is thinking about killing him, which is oddly specific and oddly right. Shortly after this, Bella is told she is good to go from the nurse's office and she can actually just skip gym today as long as Edward is the one to drive her home, since she did almost just pass out and driving home by yourself after that. Not a good idea. Don't do it. Once they get out of the nurse's office, she asks him if he's coming to La Push this weekend. And no, he's absolutely not coming because that's where the werewolves are. The people they have the treaty with to not come onto their land, or then they can just kill them. And then it's a whole war between werewolves and vampires, and nobody would want that in a fun book, no. She's disappointed by this, but quickly moves on to convincing Edward to just let her drive herself home. But he's like, no, I will drive you home, then come back, and Alice can drive your car to the house. It'll all work out just fine. And he also wants to kind of use this as a test drive for their date to Seattle to see if he can handle being in the car with her alone. And also he kind of just craves being near her, you know. She's thinking this is all completely unnecessary, this guy driving her home. Meanwhile, Edward in his mind is panicking on how to court a woman in the modern day and age. He doesn't know how to do this. Alice and Jasper had a strange meeting because Alice already saw Jasper coming, so she was already in love with him, and Jasper was like, okay, I guess we're in love now. Esme was actually in love with Carlisle before she got turned into a vampire, so once she was turned, they quickly started dating and got married. Then he focuses back in on the present moment and asks himself what he would be doing right now if he wasn't the villain in this story, and he realizes he would be asking her questions. He would be getting to know her. He starts with asking what her mother is like. She proceeds to insult her mother in the most loving way possible. Then he asks how old she is. She's 17. He says, you don't seem 17. No, we can't be using that line because that's the line all the creepy guys use to get with the underage girls. You can't make him say stuff like this and then try to make me okay with this relationship. It doesn't work like that, Stephanie. I truly don't get how people like you. She comments that he doesn't seem like a junior in high school himself, and he's shocked to realize this, my guy. Come on, let's be a little self-aware, please. He puts the focus back on her, asking more questions about her irresponsible mother, and asks why her mom married Phil. And she's like, probably because she wanted to feel younger. Because Phil, we learn here, is like 10 years younger than her mom. So her mom would be perfectly fine with this 100-year age gap, right? They proceed with this back and forth, get to know you conversation they're having. She asks about his parents. He explains they died a really long time ago. She asks about his family dynamics. He doesn't really go into it. He just admits that they're probably going to be mad if they have to wait in the rain for him to get back to the school. Because at this point in the conversation, they're already back at her house and they just keep on yip-yapping. When she asks if she's going to see him tomorrow, he explains that no, him and Emmett are going to start the weekend early, aka they're going hunting this weekend, but he just explains they're going hiking. Then he asks her ever so politely to not fall into the ocean or die in some other very stupid way while he's gone. And in his head, he's thinking, I love you, Bella. Run for your life, Bella. I love you, Bella. Run, Bella, run. This man is insane. He needs therapy. I have a pitch for the vampires. Next time they all go to college, let's take a psychology course and learn how our brains work, okay? Let's do that. Bella is offended by being asked not to die this weekend and just snaps, I'll see what I can do. You know what? They both kind of suck as people. When he gets back to school, he just has some time to sit in the car and think about all his feelings, because all he knew in his previous life was the want for soldier's glory and the love he had for his mom, which is very different than the love he has for Bella. I sure hope so. But eventually all his family gets there. All the vampires are like, wow, she does smell good, because the car smells a lot like her right now. Then they just take her car back to her house and go back home themselves. A little later that day, he actually starts playing the piano. He's very good at this. This is something he does in his pastime a lot, but he hasn't done it recently. So when Esme starts to hear this wonderful woman right here, their wonderful mother vampire that we all adore so much. She's just the cutest little vampire you've ever seen, and I would do anything to protect her. Anyways, she's just thinking, oh, he's playing again. Then he hears Rosalie's thoughts about him playing again, and finally figures out why she's been so annoyed. She's jealous of Bella. Now, she doesn't want to be with Edward, but they had a chance to be together, and Edward was the one who was like, no, I don't want to do that. And she's never really had anybody reject her before, so she didn't take that too kindly. But now they have this brother-sister relationship, so this is a really weird thing to be jealous over. It's not like she's jealous that Edward is going to be with somebody else. She's just jealous that anybody else could get a guy she couldn't, even when that guy is kind of seen as her brother. Okay, yeah, it's pretty weird. I'm gonna stop talking about that now. While he's listening to all these thoughts, he is composing a song about Bella, but it comes to the sad, tragic end. Because he knows their story won't end well. Alice even comes over at one point and starts singing some stuff along to the song, but eventually he just stops because this can't go on any longer. Alice takes this opportunity now to fill Edward in that some vampires they know are gonna be coming to town to visit them next week. And Edward is instantly panicking. Even though these vampires that are coming in don't hunt anybody in the town of Forks, he knows that Bella would somehow be the one to get herself killed by them still. So he will not be letting her out of his sight at all. Half of the room is telling him that he's kind of being ridiculous over Bella right now and just needs to calm down a little bit. Esme, to relieve the tension, is like, hey, you wanna play that song again? So he takes the little bottle cap he took from Bella's lunch, sets it on the piano, and starts playing again. And now cut to that weekend. Emmett is currently hunting down a bear, because why wouldn't he be? After that's done, they kind of talk over this whole Bella situation. Now, Emmett isn't being super nice or polite about this. He's the type of guy that makes crude jokes about basically everything. So eventually, to get his point across, Edward is like, imagine if Rosalie was vulnerable to everything around her. How would you feel being away from her? Emmett brings up possibly turning Bella into a vampire, but Edward's like, no, I won't do that to her. Because they live with Rose, who hates being a vampire. She would do anything to be a human again, but she is making the best of this vampire life she has. And he just can't imagine doing that to Bella, making her feel that way for eternity. Emmett's then like, okay, if we're not turning her into a vampire, can you even really touch her? I mean, like, you're so insanely strong and she's paper to you, honestly. So, like, how would that work? Edward's like, dude, we're not even thinking about that right now, okay? But, I mean, it's a logical question if you're in love with her, okay, Edward? We all just want to know what you're thinking. Edward is full-on panicking at this point, wondering if Bella is even gonna make it through the weekend without getting killed by some random occurrence. So he runs all the way back to Forks a day early. And Emmett goes, just like a crazy person would. He's just keeping it real. He's keeping it real. So now cut to very early Monday morning, Edward over here is climbing in through her window to her bedroom to watch her sleep. He says that her hands are tucked under her chin like a child. I can't. A fun fact about me, actually, if anybody comes into a room while I'm already asleep, apparently I shoot straight up in bed and start asking, who are you? Even to my husband. I've been married 3 years at this point. I apparently have trust issues. I don't know where these came from, but I can just imagine this guy trying to stalk me coming into my room and I'm like, ah, who are you? And he's like, gotta go. I would be saving myself a lot of heartache and creepy stalker vampire-ness. So that would be good. Back to Bella, she proceeds to just talk about her mom in her sleep, and Edward does creepy stalker vampire things, and then Monday and Tuesday are both sunshiny days, so he can't go to school and he can't hang out with Bella, and that's just the worst thing in the world for him. Of course, on these days, he is still watching her, obviously, because he's a stalker. He witnesses Mike Newton ask Bella out on a date, and Bella's like, no, I'm good, but, have you asked Jessica out on a date? Because I'm pretty sure she would say yes. And Mike's like, oh, Jessica likes me? I didn't know that, even though it's been so freaking obvious the whole entire time. Then when Bella gets home, she goes outside, lays a blanket out on the grass because it is a nice day in Forks, Washington, and she has to take advantage of this. She sits there trying to read some books, but she can't really land on anything. She's going through classics because she is a well-read girl. That's not the word I was thinking of, but we're going with it. She ends up just giving up on this, though, and just lays down and takes a nap until she hears the sound of Charlie getting home. Then she runs back inside because it's already dark out by this time. And Edward has been here watching her from the force the entire time, being like, why is she so stupid? Why would you just sleep out in the outdoors? Why would you do that, Bella? And of course, that night, he watches her sleep because, well, why wouldn't he? And then he stalks her to school the next day because why wouldn't he? This is another pretty average day of school, but Bella is wearing a beautiful, gorgeous, stunning blue top that he finds stunning, gorgeous, beautiful. Oh, why do you guys watch this? Anyways, he does overhear the girls planning to go to Port Angeles to look for dresses for Jessica and Angela. Bella isn't going to that dance, but she's coming along with them. So Edward decides to give them an hour lead and then follows them there. Because Bella can't be trusted alone. He's just waiting outside, listening to Jessica and Angela while they try on dresses, keeping tabs on Bella. This entire time he overhears how apparently Tyler is planning to ask Bella out on a date as an I'm sorry for almost killing you because she was telling the girls about this plan she overheard. And after a while of just meaningless conversation, he kind of just zones out for a bit. But when he zones back in, Bella's gone. She's left. She's at a bookstore now. So he goes off to find this bookstore, but Bella isn't there. She's not there. So he just starts to drive around this town trying to find anybody thinking of Bella. Eventually, he finds a very creepy man thinking about Bella and about how he's about to kidnap her. That's so cool. So he speeds over there, opens the car door, tells Bella to get in the car. Bella's like, I don't know how you found me, but thank you, and gets in the car. She was just standing there as this man was walking towards her, by the way. Not running, just standing. Edward is ready to get out of this car and kill this man in the most brutal way right now, but decides he needs to get Bella out of here, so that's what he does. While they're driving, he tells her to talk about anything, literally anything right now to distract him. So she just starts talking about the whole Tyler situation and a bunch of other random stuff, because this is the only thing keeping him not focused on killing that man. Once he's made sure she's okay, he takes her to the restaurant that he knew Jessica and Angela were already at, without her even having to tell him where they were planning to eat tonight. Jessica and Angela have already ate. They're outside. They haven't seen Bella in hours, and they just ate their food and were like, I don't know, should we leave? I don't know. Don't do this to your friends. If your friend wants to go to a bookstore alone while you're trying on dresses, don't let her. Be like, no, we are in a city. We are 3 teenage girls. We are sticking together, okay? Thank you very much. Never do what Bella does. If something you're about to do seems like something Bella would do, stop it right now. Don't do it. It's gonna be a bad idea. Edward has Bella go deal with the situation first, just being like, hey girls, I'm totally fine. Sorry, I just ran into Edward. Super chill. Definitely didn't almost get killed. So fun. And then Edward comes in. He's like, hey, do you mind if I actually just drive Bella home myself tonight? I'm gonna get dinner with her here. If you guys haven't already had food, you can come eat with us as well. He knows they've already ate. But anyways, Jessica's like, no, we haven't had food, because she wants to eat dinner with the hot Edward Cullen, okay? And Angela over here, sweet Angela goes, yeah, we already ate, actually, so we're good to go if you guys just wanna have dinner by yourselves. She is a wing woman. Does she know she's handing her friend over to a vampire? No, but she's trying to be so good right now. But once again, if you go to a town with 3 girls, 3 of you should drive back in the same car. I don't care how well you know that random guy. If you are an hour plus away from home, no, you do not leave her to have a random dinner with a random guy from your school. Not happening. No. But these girls just leave because Edward assured them that he would drive Bella home. You know, as long as he doesn't get too tempted by her blood and murder her, sure. Once the girls are gone, Bella's trying to get out of dinner, being like, no, I'm fine, I'm really not that hungry, and Edward's like, no, we are having dinner because I'm honestly just really scared you're gonna go into shock soon. He gets her into the restaurant. The hostess is flirting with him. The waitress is flirting with him. He just is focused on Bella, though. He orders them both Cokes, has her order some food, and has her start eating, but she doesn't really want to start eating, so they make a little game out of this. He talks, she eats. But not before Bella tells him it's unfair what he was doing to those girls, because he just dazzles people. And he goes, what? I dazzle people? She's like, yeah, you're so charming all the time. Those poor girls are probably in the back crying now because you rejected them. Do you think everybody gets their way as easily as you? Then he's like, do I dazzle you? And she goes, yeah, sometimes. Bold. Before she starts eating, the first question she has for Edward is why he was in Port Angeles tonight. And he's like, next question, I don't want to talk about that one. Then she's like, okay, so, what if somebody could read minds with a few exceptions? How would they find somebody in a city like this? But he interrupts her before she can even finish that, saying just one exception. They continue on this hypothetical question about this hypothetical person they now call Joe, who can read minds, and he's like, well, if Joe would have been paying better attention, he wouldn't have had to get there right at that moment. He would have already been there. And Bella over here, isn't even fazed that this man just admitted that he can read minds. And the conversation just casually turns into them talking about the fact that she almost dies like every day now. She thanks him for saving her life twice. And this is when he finally admits he followed her here. And he's just trying to keep her alive, but it's pretty troublesome. And you want to know Bella's response to being told she's being stalked? Like, heavily stalked. She smiles. She goes, oh, how cute! How cutesy! Like, it's not a, help me smile. It's like, aw, adorable. Bella, girl. She then asks this man if he thinks that her time was up with the van incident. And he goes, no, your time was up when I met you in biology class. I thought about murdering you multiple times that day, and we're lucky you're still alive, honestly. She goes quiet, obviously, but apparently she already figured out that this man wanted to kill her that day. And she decided to still get dinner with him. And then they don't talk about this any further. And they just start talking about exactly how he stalked her today and how he still wants to kill the man that almost hurt her. She finally finishes eating at this public restaurant they were at. Yeah, they were kind of in a quieter corner, but people are still around. They can probably hear this conversation. Imagine overhearing this conversation. I would have stopped eating. I would have stopped drinking. I would just be sitting there like, should I call the cops? And then I probably would have, because what is going on? They get out to his car and he goes, okay, your turn, because he's about to ask her all the questions, but she goes, no, I have one more. How did you find me after you went to the bookstore and I wasn't there? How did you track me for a little bit? And he goes, I followed your scent. Great, cool. Love that. And this leads to her getting distracted by the mind reading question again and why he can't read her mind. And he explains it that she's kind of on a AM frequency when all he can hear is FN frequencies and stuff like that. And she's like, are you saying something's wrong with me? And he's like, what? I just told you I can read minds and you think something is wrong with you because I can't read your mind? Even Edward is appalled to how she's reacting to all of this. Then he just tells her to tell him her theories. And she starts panicking a bit and he's wondering what's going on until she says slow down because this man is speeding. He can read minds so he can tell when there's going to be a cop nearby, so he just speeds and slows down when he gets near a cop. For her, he does slow down, but he is still going pretty fast. Something is in my eye. And finally, she starts to explain that she learned some stuff on Saturday when she was talking to Jacob Black. See, Jacob's dad, Billy, is one of the Quelute elders. And Edward already knows this means Bella knows the truth about him. Because they have a deal with the Quelute elders that they won't go onto their land as long as they just allow them to stay in Forks. Because even though they know they're vegan vampires, they still don't fully trust them. And so finally, Bella brings up vampires for the first time, being like, yeah, Jacob told me this funny story he didn't take too seriously about, their lore and stuff over there. And she kind of feels bad because she kind of tricked Jacob by flirting with him to get this information, but she got the information. And when Edward asks her what she thinks about this, she says, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter that you might kill me at any moment. Why would that matter? He goes, it doesn't matter? And now is wondering how he's supposed to protect somebody that doesn't want to be protected. And he asks, you don't care that I'm a monster, that I'm not entirely human? She goes, no. And he's starting to wonder if she's entirely stable. And I can tell you already, no, she isn't. He calls her insane, and she thinks it's because her theory is way off, and he's like, no, it's how you're reacting to finding out this news. But she just jumps into more questions, asking how old is he? He says 17. She asks, how long have you been 17? And he goes, a while. I've been 17 for a while. I could be your great-great-grandfather a while. Then she's like, okay, but how can you come out in the daytime if you're a vampire? She's like, just one more question. How do you go out in the sun? And he's like, we don't burn in the sun. That's just a myth. And we also don't sleep in coffins if we're on this, talking path. Then Edward's like, so Bella, you haven't asked the most important question yet. You know, the whole vampire sucking humans' blood part, you want to ask about that? She's like, oh yeah, but Jacob told me that you guys don't hunt people, so it's fine. And yeah, she's right, but that doesn't mean they're safe to be around. He has already admitted to wanting to kill her the first time they met. That's not normal. But she just decides to ask why they hunt animals instead of humans. It's simply because he doesn't want to be a monster. Then we get on this conversation path on how she knew that he had been hunting this weekend because his eyes were lighter, and she noticed when they get darker, that means he's a little crabbier, a little crankier, so normally that means somebody is hungry when they're that way, and may I just say that's the truth for me. I have cried many times over food not being in front of me when I thought it should be. He mentions that, yes, they were out hunting, and he did come back early because she's so accident-prone, he was really worried about her. She's shocked to know that he's been back since Monday because she thought he just got back today since this is the first time she saw him and he hasn't been at school all week. He's like, yeah, see, we don't burn in the sun, but something else happens in the sun, so we can't really be out in it, or it's pretty obvious that we're not normal. She tells him in the future to just call her if he's worried about her because she also worries about him and doesn't like not being able to see him. You were friends for like one day before he went hunting. What do you mean you're anxious when you can't see him? What do you mean? But now Edward knows Bella cares about him, maybe in the same way he cares about her. And he brings up this metaphor that he brings up a lot in this book, which is the Persephone and Hades metaphor. He's wondering if he's just dooming her to the underworld, dooming her from the joys of life. So he's like, okay, I need to stop this conversation right now. And he goes, look, it's dangerous for us to be friends. It's not safe. Please grasp that. Bella just goes, sorry, it's too late. I already care about you too much. He tells her to never say that again. And then she just goes silent for a while. And when he looks over, he realizes she has a tear rolling down her face. He made her cry. He's panicking. He's thinking, okay, new conversation. What do I ask her? What were you thinking the moments before I came around the corner and you were about to get attacked? Why weren't you running? And she goes, well, I'm really bad at running. I trip a lot. So I was just trying to remember how to take somebody down from my martial arts class. He's like, okay, yeah, you're right. I am definitely fighting an uphill battle trying to keep you alive. They finally make it back to her house. She's like, am I going to see you tomorrow? And he assures her she will because he has a paper due. Then she had gotten his jacket earlier in the night, so she hands that back. He's like, no, you can take it. And she's like, I don't want to explain that to my dad, okay? Just take your jacket back. I'll see you tomorrow. And then as she walks away into her house, Edward feels agony far more painful than yours. Now, he really does consider going back to Port Angeles right now and killing that guy, but decides he should probably talk to Carlisle about it because he will have a better solution. But I think it would have been more fun if Edward went back to Port Angeles and killed that guy. I think it would have been a more fun story, okay? Dead slight everything. He also needs to explain to Carlisle that Bella knows about them now, and, whoops. But Carlisle's actually okay with this because he thinks Bella is making Edward a more compassionate vampire. Then after their quick little conversation about everything that happened tonight, Carlisle leaves, assuring Edward that he can go back and watch Bella. He is encouraging this kid to stalk Bella. This is the one bad thing Carlisle has ever done, okay? And we get another night of Edward watching Bella while she sleeps, and he calls himself her guardian vampire this time. It's like a play on words from guardian angel. At the start of the next chapter, we get to learn what happened to this creepy guy. His name was Orlando Calders Waldus. That's not how you say words. His name was Orlando Calders Wallace. And he was actually wanted in 2 states for suspected murder and was apprehended last night in Portland, Oregon. Now, mind you, these people are in Forks, Washington. So Carlisle went over there, beat this guy up, dropped him outside a random bar in Portland, Oregon, and said, good luck, buddy. And now he's going to Houston or Oklahoma for his trial because that's where he's suspected of murder. By the time Bella is up that morning, Edward has already left. He is back at the Cullen house explaining to Alice that he's actually going to be picking Bella up today and they need to take Rose's car. They normally don't take Rosalie's car or any of their other cars because they're really, really fancy cars. I don't understand anything about cars, but these are really, really fancy cars. If you saw them in a parking lot, you would be like, whoa, that's a nice car. Even I would be like, whoa, that's a nice car. When Bella comes out of her house in an oversized sweater to see Edward parked out there, he's just thinking, man, I really wish she wouldn't wear that sweater because it hides her figure. Shut up! Edward, stop being weird. She just hops in this car, though, and starts asking him more questions. At one point, she's like, hey, do all my questions bother you? And he's like, no, not the questions. It's the way you react to them. See, you should be horrified by most of my answers, but you're like, okay, chill. And to that, she says, okay, good, as long as I'm not annoying you with my questions. They get to school, and the first person Edward can hear is Jessica, and she is going crazy right now because Bella just arrived to school with Edward, and she just saw them go on a date last night. Edward gives Bella a nice little heads up on this whole Jessica situation, being like, hey, she's gonna ask you some questions when you get to your first class today, okay? And I'll be listening to hear how you answer to how you feel about me. And it would probably just be easier if you tell her that we're dating. It would just make more sense for the whole story and not make us make up some weird cover story, okay? So Bella just goes off to her first class. She sits next to Jessica, and Jessica starts grilling this girl instantly about everything that happened last night. She needs all the details. She explains to her that it wasn't a planned date and starts filling her in on everything that happened last night. Then when she asks Bella if she likes him, she says yes. And then Jessica's like, but do you really, really like him? And she says yes again and blushes this time. But that's not enough for Jessica. She has to ask this in one more way. And she's like, okay, how much do you like him? And she says, too much, more than he likes me. And then next thing you know, we're at lunch and he is still listening into what Jessica is thinking in her head. And Jessica, for some reason, is thinking swoon, just the word swoon in her head multiple times. Is that something people were saying back in 2005? I want to know where this came from. If you were alive and thriving back in 2005, were you saying swoon? Look, I don't know because I was 3 and getting diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I was a little busy. While Edward is waiting for Bella, Alice does inform him that it's going to be sunny on both sides of the Sound this weekend. This is the weekend that they're supposed to be going to Seattle together, so he would be a sparkly vampire in Seattle, and that probably isn't the best thing. Alice is also like, hey, I really, really want to meet Bella. She's going to be my future best friend. Can I please meet her soon? Please, please, please. But Bella gets there, these two get in line to get food, and he picks up one of everything for her. One of everything on the cafeteria line. When they finally sit down to eat, she asks, what would happen if somebody dared you to eat? He says, I mean, I could eat it. I would just end up throwing it back up later. Charming. Meanwhile, while these two are talking, he can overhear Rosalie saying all sorts of horrible things about the both of them. She is still not over the fact that Bella has put her family in danger, and honestly, I kind of understand Rose. Eventually, he brings up the fact that Bella said she cares about him more than he cares about her. And she gets a little too distracted to answer because once again, he dazzled her. I feel like Stephanie Meyers just learned the word dazzle before she wrote this book, and that's why it's in here so much, because I don't remember it being in Twilight once. I may be remembering wrong, but I don't think it was there. Anyways, he's telling her she's wrong because he cares about her more. But Bella just keeps going on about how she's not that pretty and she's so clumsy, she's basically disabled. That's what the book says. That's not me. I can't decide if I should be offended by that or not. I think it's so absurd that I'm not offended. Anyway, she just keeps going on, and it ends with her being like, I'm just so simple. I'm exactly like all the other girls. And she's just nervous that Edward is going to leave her at any moment because he always sounds like he's about to say goodbye. He explains he's not trying to say goodbye, but then argues that if it was better for her, he would leave and hurt himself doing it, which proves he cares about her more, somehow. She starts getting really riled up about this conversation for some reason, so Edward's like, okay, we gotta steer away from this conversation, we gotta tone it down right now, so he brings up Seattle, and is wondering if they can change their plan or if she actually had something she needed to do in Seattle. Of course, this girl is open to alternatives because it's with Edward Cullen over here, but she says that they still have to take her truck because she told Charlie she was going alone and she doesn't want to have to explain to Charlie that she's now going with a boy. Edward is kind of like, hey, maybe you should tell somebody where you're going, especially since you're going with me. Somebody you don't know that well and somebody who might kill you. And she's like, nah, why would I do that? And he's like, wow, you are so stupid. Then she's like, okay, so what are your hunting trips like? When you hunt down animals, and can I maybe come and watch one day? That would be super fun. He's like, no, you can't do that because we kind of lose control when we're hunting because we have to sense where they are and we just have to give into the slight monster side of ourselves. And if you were there, I would probably just turn on you. So no, you're not coming. And we just kind of take down bears and mountain lions and stuff. She brings out that mountain lions or bears aren't in season right now. And he's like, hey, we're vampires. And hey, if you look closely, the rules say you can't hunt them with weapons. I would argue that their teeth are weapons, though. I would make that argument. Somebody debate me on it right now. Bella is too good at going with the flow because she just so casually asks what his favorite animal to suck blood out of is. It's a mountain lion. He likes the taste of those mountain lions real good. Real good. Finally, lunch is over and off to biology we go. While they're in there, Edward overhears Angela's inner thoughts, thinking about somebody she would really like to get together with. And Edward has been wanting to pay Angela back for just being such a kind human and kind towards Bella, and he decides he's gonna get Sam, the little boy she has a crush on, not a little boy, no, a perfectly normal teenage boy she has a crush on, and is gonna get him to ask her out in some way. He's gonna figure that out for Angela. Anyways, back to biology. They're actually just watching a movie today, and these two sit next to each other in the most awkward manner the entire class period. He's not touching her because he's still a little concerned that he'll just kill her, and she's not touching him because she's embarrassed. After biology is over, Edward puts his plan into motion to get Sam to ask out Angela. He tells Emmett his plan. He's like, look, I'm gonna ask like I asked Angela out, and then she's gonna have said something like she wants to go out with Sam and she's not interested in me, okay? So we're gonna talk about this right in front of him. So they do that, and then Sam's like, whoa, I should go ask Angela out now. I should really do that. And then that works out, and Angela and Sam are now together. It was just a little side B plot, but I thought it was really cute. It was a little funny vampires having a little fun prank, using their powers for good. Look at them go. Bella, of course, during gym hit her head, but she's fine. Sure, she's fine. Edward overhears Mike going on about how he wants to kill Edward, and he just hates that guy so much, and he doesn't understand why Bella would choose him. Once they meet up in the parking lot, Edward is kind of filling her in on all of this and also reveals that he knows that she hit her head in gym, and she's like, hey, stop spying on me for other people, please. And then uses this leverage to get him to agree to them taking her truck this weekend because he really doesn't want to take that old vehicle. It does not drive fast and he wants to go zoom zoom. No. And he wants to go fast. And then on this same old conversation on the drive home, they're talking about this whole hunting situation, yada, yada, yada. And he's thinking about how he should definitely just leave her, yada, yada, yada. But he's not going to do that because we all know how this story ends. We all know. Okay, Edward, shut up. This book could have been 50% shorter if we would have cut out a third of his monologues about how much he should leave Bella. It could have been so much shorter, and it would have been so much better. Nothing would have made this book good, but it would have been better without all of those. Let's get to the drama at the Cullens' house. Please, I'm done. I hate these two. I hate them together, and I just care about the Cullens. I care about all the Cullens except that guy. That guy right there. Anyways, Rose has found out that Bella knows about them being vampires, and she is very ticked off right now and is threatening to destroy Edward's favorite car. The rest of the family quickly gather around them to make sure Rose doesn't kill Edward right now or go and kill Bella. Edward has to explain to everybody now how Bella figured this out. He's like, look, I didn't tell her. She just figured this out because she was talking to Jacob Black. Jacob Black wasn't trying to break our treaty by telling her. He just thought it was a funny little story. We should have seen this coming when we made this whole treaty with them way in the past. Of course, the kids from the new generations wouldn't take it seriously because it's just a myth to them. Low-key, though, half the family is just still planning to kill Bella at this point. And Carlisle's like, no, we are not going to do that. My children, please stop trying to murder people. We are good vegan vampires. And then we don't get any more of that. There's not a fun vampire fight or anything like that between the family. No, we're just back in Bella's room, and he's watching her sleep. Because of course he's watching her sleep. What else would he be doing on a Wednesday night? I don't know what night it is, okay? Stephanie Myers doesn't keep me that in the loop in this book. And now, cut to the next day, Edward is asking all the questions. It's his turn to quiz Bella on stuff, and he's just asking her all the normal person questions, like her favorite color, stuff like that. It's pretty boring. It's very boring. It's so incredibly boring. The next interesting thing that happens is during Spanish class. Edward overhears some of Emmett's thoughts, and it's about how him and Jasper made some bets on if Bella would survive. Edward doesn't take too kindly to this. But I mean, there's nothing he can really do about it. And then he takes Bella back home, asking her more boring human questions. He's there until they hear Charlie's car coming around the corner. Well, he hears it, she doesn't, because cool vampire hearing, stuff like that. And at the time he's leaving, it is Twilight, you know, like the name of the first book. Whoa! 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 Retention rates just dropped by 50%. To the 50% of you still here after that, thank you. You're the real ones. But actually, before Edward can get out of there, Jacob and Billy Black show up. And Billy sees Edward and he's like, oh no, a vampire, a cold one, with Bella. This is bad. I must warn Charlie. Somebody tell Charlie what's going on. He would fix this. He's the best character. He would fix all of this. Now, Edward had walked Bella up to the door, so as he's going back to his car, he passes Jacob and Billy, and then snarls at them. Dude! And then he goes speeding home away from the police officer. Once he gets his car home, he actually just runs straight back to Bella's house to spy on this whole conversation. Basically, all we really learn here is that Billy is freaking out still because he just saw a cold one in person, and he knows he's gonna have to have a meeting with the rest of the town elders about this. He then runs back to his house again to inform Carlisle about this whole situation. Then he spends a little bit of time with Esme, who's just checking in on him. She's making sure him and Bella are doing okay, seeing what she can do for them, basically, and she's just the best character ever and does not get enough page time or screen time ever. I adore her. After another night full of watching Bella sleep, he then runs back to his house, picks up the car, and then picks her up for school the next morning, and it is still his day to ask her questions, so many, many more boring questions ensue. They're all just going through their day before lunch, and all of a sudden Alice goes very, very still, and then gets really, really excited because she just got a vision of herself meeting Bella today in the cafeteria. So cut to the cafeteria. These two are talking some more. He's asking her some more questions, stuff like that, and then all of a sudden his brain is filled with visions from Alice of Bella in the meadow, dead or turned into a vampire. And Alice is basically begging Edward to leave with her right now so they can work on some stuff to make sure Bella will be safe in the meadow on Saturday, because that's where he plans to take her. And Alice doesn't want anything to happen to her because she loves her too as a friend, But he's just telling Alice it's an old vision, it's not valid anymore. But she is still insistent on the fact that they need to go after lunch so they can make sure he's ready for tomorrow. And finally, because of Alice's concern, he agrees to go with her after lunch and explains that he's actually not going to be in biology today because he needs to go do some things with Alice today. And they'll make sure her truck gets back here so she can drive herself home. This opens up the perfect opportunity for her to ask how his family is handling all of this. And he's like, most of them are handling it well, besides, half of them. Rose is really upset. Emmett is trying to calm her down. Jasper is overprotective of us all, but it's going. They just don't understand why I can't leave you alone. And then in the most casual way possible, he goes, it's kind of just because I'm obsessed with you. Cool. This all causes Bella to look over at Rose. Rose then shoots a nasty look towards Bella, and Edward's like, just ignore her, she really doesn't like you, okay? She's more worried about their whole family unit because it's dangerous for them to be seen together a lot, because then if something happens to Bella, it is linked back to them directly. We've already been over this a few times, I know. But Bella doesn't really understand what he means when he brings this up, and he's like, if I kill you, if I kill you and you don't return, that's what I mean. And this is when Alice comes over to get Edward so they can go hunting to make sure he is fully fed before their little date tomorrow. Alice just gets to quickly say hello to Bella, and that's all for now. Once in the car, Edward tries to reopen this conversation with Alice, telling her that everything is gonna be okay tomorrow. But Alice just shows him the vision again of Bella's dead body in the meadow he's taking her to tomorrow. He's trying to figure out a way around this, saying that they'll just go somewhere else. He'll cancel all of that, but they still just see her dead body in her vision. He's wondering why none of these things will work, and she explains to him, if you leave, you're just gonna come back. This is the future I see right now. But Edward's going, no, I can leave. It's okay if I get hurt. And she's like, no. That's not the problem, because you know that it will also hurt Bella, and you won't do anything to hurt Bella. And then shows him this vision of Bella just sitting in her room, lifeless. She's not dead. She just doesn't care anymore because Edward is gone, and he would never cause her to feel like that. He starts begging Alice to show him another path. But he doesn't like this one either because this one shows Bella as a vampire. Alice does explain right now that it's about 60-40-ish, so there is still a good chance he doesn't kill her in the meadow tomorrow, but it's a little too high for comfort. And then starts to describe Bella's future path kind of as a big tangle, a knot right now. There seems to be something she needs to get through before it all clears up. There's too many different variations of her future. Alice does have some good news. There is a third way where Bella gets to grow old, but this future doesn't take Bella's wishes into account. Edward is confused by what she means by this, and she just has to explain, Bella wants to be a vampire. This sends Edward over the edge, and he is thinking some pretty drastic things right now, but luckily it's really hard to kill a vampire. And he doesn't stay on that path for long, but he feels that this monster inside of him is just biding its time until it gets to come out and release its fangs, literally. To fight this, in his mind, he tells himself there is only one option for Bella's future. That option is for her to stay human and grow old. And with him thinking this so surely right now, Alice tells him the visions are going to 70-30. Of him not killing her in the meadow tomorrow. And then they go off to kill some wild animals. Woo! When they finish up with that, she actually mentions that she's gonna bring Jasper out to hunt here soon because she has had some visions of Bella coming over to the house, maybe as soon as this Sunday. Edward's shocked by this, but accepts it. When they both get home, the only people there are Carlisle and Esme. Alice makes herself scarce, and Carlisle and Esme pretty quickly do the same. So Edward can finally have a little bit of time alone with his own thoughts, where he won't have to hear anybody else. He's just again cementing this idea that he will not kill Bella tomorrow, he will not let this monster inside of him win tomorrow, while he plays dress up, so he looks really cute tomorrow no matter what happens. Because he really needs to show off his sparkly vampire self in the sun. And then, once again, he's back at her house watching her sleep all night. Yay. And tonight, Edward actually sends us to a little flashback of when he was first turned into a vampire by Carlisle, and he was introduced to this vegetarian lifestyle. Carlisle was very slow to introduce him to the rest of society after he was changed, making sure he didn't tempt him too much, knowing that if he was around humans as a newborn vampire, his instincts would be too much and he would act on them. But he kept Edward clean of that. The first time he was allowed out alone was on Christmas, and when he comes back, after not killing anybody, yay, Edward, he comes back to find that Carlisle has set up a Christmas tree in their living room. Carlisle sent him out on this very important first expedition, all by himself out into the human world to see if he would kill anybody, just so he could surprise him with a cute little Christmas tree surprise. And Edward realizes this means Carlisle trusted him a lot at this point. And they both lived happy like this for a long time, until one day they were hiking through the woods. They're in the middle of nowhere at this point when they run into another coven of vampires. Carlisle and this other coven leader are talking, and then she's asking if Edward has the same lifestyle, the vegetarian vampire choice, as Carlisle. He says yes, he does. And then this other vampire goes on about how he's depriving him of the greatest joy of being a vampire. And this sticks with Edward, because it's this very sentence that leads to his vigilante era, where he starts drinking human blood, but only of those that have been guilty of horrible crimes. And I gotta say, I think a vigilante vampire is cooler than anything else in this book. I would like that story more. Can I have that, please? Stephanie Meyers, hand it over. But we all know he actually does end up coming back to Carlisle, becoming a vegetarian vampire again, and living a happy, normal vampire life. He's only interrupted from this flashback because he gets a call from Alice, telling him to keep up whatever he's doing, because now her visions are 80-20. There is only a 20% chance now of anything bad happening to Bella. Oh, also during this night, Charlie peeks in the room at one point and Edward is just standing in the corner like the stalker he is. Luckily, Charlie doesn't see him. I would have loved to see what happens then. Unfortunately, Charlie wouldn't actually stand a chance, but I like to think maybe he would. Dad's strength would have come out. It would have been so fun. I feel like it's now necessary to note here on the next page I wrote blah 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 love. I was clearly a little over it at this point. Edward was just being sappy again, okay? Finally, it's the morning and he's acting like he wasn't watching her sleep all night, so he drives up in his car, meets her there, and they both say good morning, you know, normal human stuff. It's not like he was watching you sleep all night or anything, Bella. Definitely that didn't happen. But they are so cutesy because they're kind of wearing like matching outfits right now. He's got like this linen top on, she's got a linen top on. They're wearing basic outfits and they match. It's like when I go anywhere in Texas and I'm wearing a baggy t-shirt and shorts in the summer, I match everybody. But they hop in her truck, she's driving, and she has told no one where they're going. She doesn't even know where they're going till today, really, because he's taking her to a random hiking trail she has never been to before. This girl has zero survival instincts, less than zero survival instincts. How she's alive is a freaking miracle. Edward, to be fair though, being a decent guy, is actually annoyed she hasn't told anybody because it's a really stupid thing to do. But he's not that good of a guy because he still does go through with this plan even though nobody knows where this girl is besides him. But he is really nervous that she's just gonna be really scared of this dude when he sparkles in the sunlight. I will never understand this plot of this book, why everybody is scared of sparkly humans. I'd be like, cool, yo. That's great. But we're not there yet. No. We get to the trailhead, but they're actually not going on a trail. He's just leading her through the woods. And she willingly goes with him on this. They are going on an unmarked path in the woods that she does not know. And she's not good at hiking. She admits it out loud herself to Edward. And she's like, oh well, guess we'll go together. Never do this! Let me be clear with you. The only reason Bella makes it out of this situation is because she's a fictional character. If you do something like this, you won't make it out of the situation, okay? Now, this is the part of the book where I think I really start to lose my mind while I'm reading it, because on this page, I just wrote mommy issues, because they were talking about her basically having to take care of her narcissistic mother that doesn't act like a grown-up that she should to Bella. Her mom sucks all around, and she is just trauma dumping on Edward during this hike, which, I mean, if you're about to die by a random man you just met, I might as well trauma dump. But finally, they make it to this big, beautiful open meadow. She goes right into the sunlight. She's like, wow, the sun. But he stays back in the shade so he can have this super dramatic reveal, stepping into the sun. And when he steps into the sun, Bella screams, not because she's scared. No. She's never scared about anything he does. No, she's just worried that he's getting hurt because he is so sparkly that he looks like he just caught fire. And she's like, there is no way this doesn't actually hurt you. Imagine being so oily, somebody came up to you and they're like, oh my word, are you on fire? That's basically what just happened here. Once she realizes he's not being hurt by this, she just stares at his amazing sparkly skin, and he's like, are you not scared of me? No, she isn't, Edward, because you're just sparkly. You're sparkly. I get it, it's kind of unnatural, but it's not that scary, okay? If I was getting chased by you in the sunlight, I might laugh because that situation would be so ridiculous, just a shiny, sparkly man chasing me. And then he asks her once again what she's thinking, and she says, I'm thinking I didn't know something this beautiful could exist. Huh. Okay, Bella. We need to get her some highlighter. She thinks he's so beautiful right now. She actually tries to make a move on him. And then he almost murders her because he's a bloodthirsty vampire. And she forgot about that, and you forgot about that, but I didn't forget about that. No, I never forget about that because this man is terrifying, and he's creepy, and he's weird, and he's 100 and something years old going after a 17-year-old, and that will never be okay. I don't get this story. Anyways. He eventually calms himself down, but he knows they're not through the knot that Alice had talked about in their future. They still have to get through that. So he just kind of goes and sits in the meadow completely still for a while, not breathing, not moving at all. Vampires don't fidget. And ever so slowly, he starts to try to focus on other things, like the bird, the insects, all that fun stuff, all the noises that are going around in the forest, and not just controlling his bloodthirst for Bella. He starts humming to himself a little later, which breaks the silence. He starts to hear the grass to kind of shift, and then Bella, who almost got murdered by this man, starts like tracing random letters on his hand, random doodles, we don't know. He's just hoping that she's secretly writing go away or something like that, but she's not because she's just tracing his hand for some reason. I don't know. And then they just start to gaze into each other's eyes. He's still just wondering why and shocked that he doesn't scare her, and she just assures him, no, you don't scare me at all. Bella, please. Bella, please. He just tried to murder you. He just tried to murder you. But no, he doesn't scare her. I know, we all know how this ends, my shirt. Yeah, I get it. Sometimes I think if I rant about it enough, I can actually change the ending of this story and make something else happen, but I know I can't. I know this is a sign of insanity within me, that I feel like I can change this if I talk about it enough. I'm gonna go write a fanfiction. BRB. Then he asks what she's thinking because it's just so strange not to know at all times. She makes a little joke that that's how most people go about life, and then admits that she's just thinking that she can't believe he's real and is just wishing that she wasn't afraid. Oh, are you thinking there's common sense here? No. She's just afraid that she likes him too much already. Yes, that's what the book said, okay? Stephanie, how did you come up with this character? She doesn't say any of this out loud to Edward. We just kind of know this because we did get her perspective in another book, you know? But anyways, she doesn't say anything. She just starts to lean in to kiss him, and then he almost murders her again for a second time today. But he flings himself across the meadow and is just crouching in the forest now, like, "Argh." And Bella, for the first time now, actually looks scared. She looks like she's about to cry, which is what she should have looked like a few days ago. A few freaking days ago. But then this girl starts apologizing to him, saying, I'm so sorry, Edward. If you ever ask me to cover another Twilight book, just remember this right here, okay? Remember how this scene made me feel, and please never do that to me ever again. People asked for this video after I posted the original Twilight videos, and why did you do that? Because you put this idea in my head, and I thought it would be fun, and now I'm regretting it. But we're halfway through now, so we're all sticking this through. You can't click out of this video, and I definitely can't not make this video anymore, so we're all stuck here. Then Edward does this whole routine. He's like, okay, maybe I should just make Bella scared of me because that would be good for her. So he does this whole routine of wandering around in the shadows, being like, I'm faster than you are, I could get you whenever, blah, 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 I'm so scary, I want to suck your blood, blah, 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 you know, that sort of stuff. And then he instantly feels bad about it because he's like, oh, but I really like Bella. She was really cool. I'm sorry, Bella, I still want to be with you. So he comes back over to her, assuring her that he won't hurt her. She starts to relax. He's asking for her forgiveness, explaining that she just caught him off guard, and from now on, he'll be on his best behavior. It reeks of an abusive relationship from both sides somehow. And Edward decides now is the time for a little jokey joke, and he says, I'm not thirsty today. Wink. He winks at her after almost killing her. But she starts to laugh and they hold hands. 'Cause, woo, it's all fine. While they're just sitting there, as he describes it, he's feeling the gift of her mercy, and it feels the same way as when he came back to Carlisle and Esme after he went on a human killing spree, but they were all bad humans, so it's kind of okay, you know, he was a vigilante vampire. Again, I won't talk about how much better that book would have been anymore, but it would have been better. Anyways, he's like, wow, they forgave me just like she is right now, and that's so cool, man. And then the conversation they're having turns into them saying, I want to be with you forever. I love you. I never want to be apart from you. Mind you, they've hung out like 4 times, maybe? 4 times. And she's 17. And he's 104 years old or something. And of course, this conversation naturally flows into him trying to describe how good she smells to him. He's like, yeah, but think if you had like a really nice alcohol in front of an alcoholic, what would they do? It was the example in the book, don't get mad at me. They both just make a joke about her being his drug. My love is your drug. It's a very specific quote, but I feel like YouTube might not be too happy with me saying that, but I've said so many other things that I feel like they might not be happy with me saying at this point. I don't know. And, you know, they keep talking a little more, so we get into the conversation about how his brothers have smelt some really, really delicious people in their time, and they murder them instantly. And she takes this like a champ, because of course she does. She's like, maybe they shouldn't have killed them, but I understand why. She's just more worried that this means there's no hope for their relationship. Not that she'll die, no. She's just worried they won't get to date and kiss each other, because that would really suck. He's like, no, I'm not planning to kill you. Trust me, we're good. Even though I almost killed you 2 times today already, but we're good. But like, if I did meet you in a random dark alley, I probably would have killed you, but we didn't meet that way, so we're fine. It just keeps getting worse. It just keeps getting worse. Somehow it gets worse because he takes her for a plan that he had to murder her, to take her out. Not on a date, to take her out. I'm tapping out. Somebody let me out. Somebody let me out of this hell that I'm in right now. Because, you know, reading/listening to it is one thing. Talking about it, explaining this to normal people is another. Because what do you mean I read this? What do you mean a bunch of people read this and they were like, oh yeah, this is great content. I would like to clarify, I did not read this and I was like, oh yeah, this is great content. I was like, this is great content for a video because I'll go insane. But you know, a lot of people read these books, they liked them so much, it got turned into a movie, and then we got more books and people still think it's just a good fun series. It's not even like hee hee ha ha to them. I'll watch the movies as a comedy, those are great that way. And I think that's what most people do. But some people take this book seriously, and I know, you can go through my Goodreads, you can find the books that I take seriously that you're like, those are stupid, that's fine, I get it. We all have our different ones, but this is the one that I just can't understand, okay? I can't understand, and I gotta stop ranting about it. I'm just kind of in a mood today already, and now I'm talking about Twilight, so the moods are just stacking on top of each other, and I'm really, really over it right now. I'm really done with it, and I need to keep talking about this so we can all be so confused by this entire story. Okay, anyways, he covers the rest of the stuff he hasn't told her in the past, like, few months they've known each other here as well, okay? It's a super, super casual conversation. But he's like, but trust me, now the thought of you ever being dead, that's just heartbreaking, and I wouldn't ever want to be in that reality, so again, it's fine now. And she starts blushing at this, because this is charming right here, telling somebody you don't want to murder them anymore. That'll get a girl to blush. And he already knows how she feels because she already kind of knew all of this. So her just being here is her saying she would rather die. She would rather die than to not be with him. They've gone on one date. One frickin' date, man. That's it. That's all. And then they talk at school, and that's all they done. And she would rather die than to live without him? Somebody get her a therapist. They lean in a little closer, and this is where we get the very famous, and so the lion fell in love with the lamb, and what a stupid lamb, and what a masochistic lion. And now they both want to kiss each other real bad, like real bad. They want to be making out right now, but you know, slight problem over here, Edward Cullen can't control his, teeth. So to make sure he's good with this, he lays his head right at the base of her throat, just listening to her heart for a little while. just breathing in her scent. Then he puts his head directly over her heart. Skipping a few bases here, Edward, but okay. And he still doesn't want to kill her, even though he can feel the blood pumping through her. And then for his final test, he lets him imagine himself killing her, and he still doesn't react, so they're good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. I am in full body cringe. All of me is tense, none of me is happy about what I'm saying, but I'm still saying it for some reason. But it's at this moment that Edward over here is in a much better mood because he realizes they've made it through Alice's knot that she saw. He's not gonna kill her in this meadow. And anyways, they end their time in the meadow just talking about how he hungers for her blood and would be so happy to kill her if he didn't know her already. Normal stuff. And after that, they go back to the car, but this time they go speedy because she climbs on his back and he runs. But poor Bella over here does not handle this well. She actually has some motion sickness after this, and she's like, oh, put me down right now. I'm gonna puke. Luckily, she doesn't. And then shortly after all this, Edward's like, we never actually kissed in the meadow. So he goes in and kisses her, and then Bella over here gets a little too intense with this kiss for her first kiss, and she starts going a little too hard into this kiss, and then he has to leap away again because, he got a little too tempted. Not in that way. He was gonna try to kill her again, so, And then after this, they drive home. Well, he drives home because he's like, you almost just passed out and you're dizzy right now, so we're gonna have you not drive, okay? As he's driving, he's just thinking about how Bella has changed every part of him, and being a vampire wouldn't have been this hard if he knew that after all these decades, he would find Bella. Poor Bella. While they're driving home, Bella finally gets to learn how old he is. Edward was born in Chicago in 1901. He is 104 years old. He could be her grandfather, possibly great-great-grandfather. He may still be in a 17-year-old's body, but there's no way he has the same mental capacity as a 17-year-old still. He's lived for 104 years. He's gonna have a lot more life experience than somebody who's literally only lived for 17 years. I'm so sorry this happened to your daughter, Charlie. You didn't deserve this, and I apologize for the whole Cullen family, even Carlisle. Anyways, Edward gets into the backstory of how he became a vampire a little bit more. Carlisle saved him from influenza when he was dying from that stuff. Not a good time. It kind of came from Carlisle being really lonely, but also, Edward was dying and he saved him, and Edward didn't have any parents that were living anyway, so it was fine. The next person he talks about Carlisle turning was Rose. Now, he actually brought Rose into the family because he thought Rose could be like Esme is to Carlisle, but, Rose would be like that to Edward, but that didn't work out. Edward had no interest in her, and Rose was really offended by that, but got over it once she found Emmett after he got attacked by the bear, and she begged Carlisle to save him because she already had this infatuation with him, this love for him, even though they had never met. She just knew. And all this happens in Knoxville, Tennessee. And if you don't know, I live in Texas now, but I grew up in Tennessee and I went to Knoxville a lot, so that was a little bit of a jump scare to read in here. But anyways, Carlisle was busy studying at UT. Go Vols. I don't root for that. I don't know what I'm saying. I've never rooted for them. Anyways, yep, Vols. He's going there for medical studies for a bit, and that's when they found Emmett. So while he's saving Emmett, these two have to get out of there because there's a lot of blood, and this is when their sibling relationship starts. They have a bonding moment while they talk at this river, stuff like that. She goes over how she never really wanted to be a vampire. It's a big connection moment for them, and that's why they're kind of friends now, but she's really mad at him right now. And Alice and Jasper actually just kind of showed up as vampires already. Alice showed up first. She doesn't even remember her life before being a vampire. She just showed up and she's like, I saw you in my future and I wanted to be a little vegan vampire, so I'm here now. And then Jasper shows up and he's like, hi. And Alice is like, I love you, we're gonna get married. And he's like, okay, cool. They make it back to her house, they go in so she can heat up some food, and he has to go over how often he was spying on her, and he admits he was there almost every night watching her sleep. And Bella is only concerned about this because she knows she talks in her sleep, and she goes, what did I say? She wasn't worried that this man was sitting in her room without her knowledge, without her consent. No. She's just worried about what she said. She may be the most unbelievable character written in any book ever. So he tells her that she talked about her mother and, also said his name a couple times, and she is in a full-blown panic now. She's like, oh my word, this is so embarrassing. He's like, no. If I could dream, I would dream about you, which... Dang, that's a good line by Edward Cullen. Okay. All right, I see you. Don't think I like you, but that was smooth. Then he hears Charlie's car coming up the road, and he darts upstairs, explaining this to Bella real fast. He traveled upstairs so fast, she didn't see him go, so she's just like, Edward? And he goes, I'm upstairs, it's okay, we're all good. Charlie gets inside, they have a normal little night, she heats him some dinner for him, then she's like, look, I'm really tired, I gotta go to bed. Because she wants to go hang out with Edward some more. And Charlie is just over here fully thinking she's planning to sneak out tonight because that's what he used to do. That's what he thinks is happening. No, it's something so much worse. This random stalker vampire is in her room. And as Edward is just sitting in her room, he decides the best place to wait for her is just sitting on the bed. Interesting choice, but okay, buddy. And when this girl enters her room, which her bed is in the middle of, and sees him on it, she gets jump scared because she didn't notice him at first. The bed is in the middle of the room. So they just end up sitting on the bed together, chit-chatting. Edward, during all of this, hears Charlie go down to Bella's truck and unplug the batteries from it so she can't go anywhere tonight. Honestly, smart move by the dad. Unfortunately, the guy is already inside the house. After this, Bella goes off to the bathroom for what she calls a human minute, and while she's doing all that, Edward picks up a little book called Tooth and Claw and reads 160 pages in like the 9 minutes she was gone from the room. I have never been more jealous of somebody's reading speed. When she makes it back to the room, they're just talking about some more stuff. She's complaining about how he's good at basically everything, and he's like, I'm not good at everything, the whole not killing you, I'm not good at that. I almost killed you like 3 times today, which is definitely something to point out that you're not good at, Edward. Good job. But he assures her that he's past that part and he knows he's strong enough now. Okay, buddy, I'll believe it when I see it. Luckily, he is a realist and he's like, look, if that pull ever feels too strong again, I will just leave. And she's like, I don't want you to do that, okay? And he's like, okay, fine, I won't do that. So, never mind, he's not gonna leave ever. Like Alice said. This leads into a conversation about jealousy. Look, I don't know how they got here, but we gotta cover all the bases, okay? This conversation starts with him talking about watching her sleep and him saying her name and how that made him fall even more in love with her. Look, this conversation is all really creepy. Most of their conversations are really creepy. We just gotta roll with it, okay? Then all of a sudden, he hears Charlie coming towards the room and he tells Bella to go act like she's asleep and he goes and stands in a dark corner just being like, don't see me, don't see me, don't see me. I'm a scary vampire, don't see me. But Charlie just pokes his head in, sees Bella poorly faking sleep and walks away. He's like, well, she's in her room. It's fine. Edward at this point is trying to convince Bella to just go to bed because it's getting late, but she doesn't want to go to bed. She wants to keep talking. So she asks how the vampires get their powers. How is that decided? They don't really know, but they have a theory that it has something to do with what they were good at in their past lives. Like Jasper needed to control situations, so now he can control everybody's emotions. Rosalie cared about what she looked like, so now she has the extra special pretty power. Emmett wanted to be a strong dude, and now he's a really strong dude. Edward just wanted knowledge on everybody, and now he has that. So, that's kind of what we're thinking is the vibes here. But it's just a theory. A vampire theory. He asks if she's ready for bed now, and of course she's not, but he's like, look, you can ask me all the questions you want to tomorrow. I will still be here. She's really worried that he actually won't be, though, but he assures her that he will be right here. It'll be fine. And gives in to her asking one final question tonight, because now she's upset, and he hates to see her upset. So she starts asking him this question, then stops asking it because she gets embarrassed and she's like, okay, so you said Rose and Emmett were getting married soon. So, if they're getting married, can they, do other married people stuff? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, but, how would that work for, could we? And he's like, no, I don't think that would be a possibility. Sorry. It would just be too easy for him to break her or, an entire headboard. Then they both have that awkward conversation of being like, so have you done anything like that before? And both of them say no. And somehow after this, she falls asleep, and in her sleep she says, Edward, I love you. What a way to say I love you for the first time. Mind you, they just started dating today, I guess. But she proceeds to say it again and again and again in her sleep. While he watches her sleep, he's just thinking of how cruel it is to keep Alice away from her when she knows they're gonna be best friends. I know, I've said that 5 million times, but again, the book has said it 5 million times too, so I'm just repeating what the book said, okay? Anyways, he decides to go back to the house to convince his family, mainly Rose, to not kill Bella and to just get everybody on his side. But the main key to do that is to get Rose on his side, so he ends up taking her to a lake, similar to the night they had in Knoxville when they first bonded when Emmett came into the picture, and has this discussion with her, being like, I love Bella, I really want her to be a part of this, and tells her that he doesn't plan to turn her into a vampire, he doesn't want that life for Bella because he knows Rose hates that she's a vampire. so he wants to try to save Bella from that. She's still not happy about this, but she's like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I won't kill her. But she does ask, what will you do if Bella asks you to change her? What if she begs you? And he tells her, I'll refuse. And that's how we got Rose to kind of accept Bella. She still doesn't like this idea, but will accept it for now. They go back to the house and Esme is excited because she knows that the plan now is for Bella to come over tomorrow. And Alice assures Edward that she sees everything going perfectly fine tomorrow and Bella will be safe. But then gives him an overall updated future for Bella, taking Bella's wishes into account, and that has her turning into a vampire. Not right away, but it's probably gonna happen because that's what Bella wants. He tells her that's not gonna happen. He'll refuse to turn her, and Alice goes, when have you ever said no to Bella? She clocked that man. And Edward, to prove Alice's point, just goes running back to Bella's house to make sure he is there when she wakes up. Before Bella is up that morning, he does hear Charlie actually putting the battery wires back together on her car so she can actually use her car that day, you know? And then this girl wakes up in a panic, gasping, looking around, searching for Edward and not calming down till she sees him sitting in a rocking chair. And she runs over to him. Again, they've gone on one date. She had just been really worried that everything that happened was a dream. Apparently it wasn't a nightmare to her, but sure. After she gets ready for the day real fast, he fills her in on what he did during the night and also fills her in on what she said during the night. She buries her face in him, embarrassed, telling him, but you already knew that. And then says it again, this time fully awake. Edward wants to say it back, but he doesn't feel like those words are enough, so he says, you are my life now. That's insane. They go down, she's eating breakfast, he goes over the plan to meet his family today and also for him to be introduced to Charlie as her boyfriend today. She doesn't want to introduce him to Charlie as her boyfriend because that's complicated and kind of embarrassing for her, but he convinces her it's for the best. After she's done eating, she then runs back upstairs to change. She comes back down and he goes, whoa, nobody should look this tempting because she's in that same blue top that he really, really likes. She's just worried that this means tempting as in, I want to suck your blood right now. And she's like, should I change turtleneck? I don't know, what should I do? And he's like, no, you look great. And then they kiss again, and this time Bella faints because she decided to hold her breath this time. She thought that would help this whole situation. And he's like, what am I gonna do with you, man? Shortly after this, though, they are on their way to meet all the other vampires, and Bella is not nervous because she's meeting a bunch of vampires. She's just nervous that these vampires won't like her. When they walk in, everybody is waiting for them. He introduces her to Carlisle and Esme first. They do their little introduction. She's already met Carlisle, so this is kind of comforting for her, and Esme already adores her. And then Alice comes running down the stairs at vampire speed, plants herself in front of Bella, kisses her on the cheek, and says, hi. And you can just see how ecstatic she is to finally start this friendship that she has envisioned for so long. Jasper follows her down. He stays a little further back because Bella does have an overall good scent to all vampires, so she is a little more tempting, and he is still kind of new to this vegetarian lifestyle, and also he just wants to be able to control all the emotions in the room to keep everything calm and good for the first time Bella is over. He introduces himself though, saying, hello, Bella, in his little southern accent he has over here. Carlisle does take a second now in his head just to tell Edward about the vampires they expect to be coming sometime tomorrow night because of Alice's vision, and advises him to keep Bella away, and he is already planning to just kidnap her at this point to keep her away from these new vampires that he doesn't trust. Sorry, I should have said the entire family except Rose and Emmett were there because Rose still doesn't really want to meet Bella right now. They continue on into the house though, and she sees a piano and she asks if Esme plays, and Esme's like, I don't play, but Edward does, and Bella's like, oh my word, he's good at everything. Esme does get Edward to play one of his songs, and he plays one of Esme's favorite songs. While he's playing this, all the other vampires kind of file out, leaving these two alone in the house. After he's finished this beautiful song, she tells him that she's starting to feel a little insignificant. He just reminds her that he has been around for 104 years. He has had plenty of time to learn all this stuff. She does not need to feel insignificant about anything. He then starts to play the song he wrote about her. While he's playing this, they start talking about how meeting the family went. He explains that all of them like her so far. Then she brings up Emmett and Rose. He explains that Emmett is with Rose, just trying to get her to come around to this whole situation, and Rose isn't here because she's kind of jealous of Bella. Bella is shocked by this because Rose is stunningly beautiful, just absolutely drop-dead gorgeous, could be a supermodel. Edward has to explain that Rose wants to be a human like Bella. It's hard for her to just see somebody want to throw that away like she does. She then asks him what he was talking about with Carlisle in their minds because she noticed them kind of communicating, looking a little out of the situation for a second when they were all meeting. Edward explains the whole situation to her about the new vampires coming to town and they don't know them and they will be probably bloodthirsty vampires. And this actually causes her to shudder, and he's like, finally, a rational response from this woman. He tells her, I was beginning to think you had no sense of self-preservation. He finishes his song, which causes her to tear up a little, and they go off to explore the rest of the house. The first thing that catches her attention is the cross that is hung up on the wall, and she's like, whose is that? Because that's not a normal thing to see in a vampire's house. He explains it's Carlisle's and starts kind of explaining Carlisle's backstory with his father being a priest and everything like that. He actually lived during a time that they would burn people because they suspected they were vampires. Normally they just burn the wrong people, unfortunately, though. And then gives her the backstory on how Carlisle was changed. His group was actually attacked by vampires. His associates were killed, but he actually just got bitten and left there. He wasn't bitten directly on a vein or an artery, so the poison slowly went through his system, causing this agonizing pain to last longer than normal. But even after Carlisle changed like this, he never had human blood. He always wanted to be a good vampire and only drank animal blood. Even though when you're a newborn vampire, your instincts are driving you crazy to try new blood, but he resisted that day after day after day, and has still never tasted human blood. He actually fought where he got bitten, and slowly turning into a vampire was what caused him to be able to do this. So when he turned Edward into a vampire, he made him go through the same agonizing pain, but by the time they got to Esme and had to change her into a vampire, her life was already almost gone, so they didn't have time for the poison to seep in slowly, so he just bit her directly on the neck, and she turned out to be the kindest of all of them, and also has never had human blood. Once he's done explaining all of this, he asks, do you have any questions? She says, a few. This leads them to Carlisle's office because he has loads of artifacts that he has collected throughout their years of living, and he's been alive for a very long time. They're currently looking at this really old painting from 1650, and she's asking if Carlisle can tell her the story of it, and he's like, I'm so sorry, I wish I could, but I gotta go to the hospital. But Edward can tell you. This basically just leads them into this whole conversation about more vampire lore and how vampires can be killed. Basically, you have to rip them up into tiny little pieces and then burn all the tiny little pieces. Yummy. We get to the exciting stuff when we get to a painting with Carlisle with the Valtori. This is the big OG vampire coven. He worked with the Valtori, still staying a vegetarian vampire, and tensions kind of kept rising because they kept trying to pressure him into just drinking human blood, but he never did. So eventually he took his time and left. This just leads us back to Carlisle finding Edward, and Edward goes into a little of his rebellion phase and how he came back to Carlisle and Esme. That's what you need to know about Edward, Bella. Have fun. After he fills her in on some of these vigilante stories, she's like, it kind of sounds like a reasonable reason to kill somebody. And she's kind of right. And then we get some actual details on one of these. See, there was this one guy he killed before he actually did anything, but it's because Edward can read people's minds. So he saw this guy growing obsessed with this little girl and was really worried about what was gonna happen. So he just kept watching him, seeing if he would actually act on these intentions or if he would fight through it and not act on it. But eventually this guy one night tries to grab this girl's arm through an open window and yank her out of there, and Edward just swoops in and kills this man. But for some reason in Edward's mind, this means that man never actually acted on it. So it wasn't an innocent victim, but you know, he didn't actually commit a crime, he just definitely was, and he holds weird guilt towards killing these people. I don't fully understand it. And then they go to his bedroom. Nothing happens here, but they listen to some music and he tackles her onto a sofa, and then Alice and Jasper are coming towards them, so they sit upright and they're like, hey, everything going on in here? It sounded like you were eating Bella. And we were wondering if we could join in on the snack. She's like, what? And she's like, haha, I'm just joking, it's fine. Jasper, though, is on a mission because Alice saw that tonight there's gonna be a really loud thunderstorm, and that means our group of vampires over here can play vampire baseball. That's right, everybody. This is unironically my favorite part of Twilight and one of my favorite things that has ever happened in a piece of media. I love vampire baseball. I don't even like baseball. But anyways, Jasper's like, we're playing baseball tonight. Edward's like, oh, okay, I don't know if I can go. I don't know if Bella can come with us. And they're like, Bella's coming, she'll watch. Okay, just hang on with me. We have to go through a few other scenes before we get to vampire baseball, okay? We have to go back to her house, drop her off so Charlie can get home, and then we introduce Edward as her boyfriend so they can have this whole introduction and they could go play vampire baseball. Okay, let's get through this introduction. Let's go. When they get back to her house, at first Charlie isn't there, but Jacob is for some reason. And Jacob's just thinking, dang it, I didn't need to talk to Bella. I just needed to talk to Charlie. Then he's like, oh wait, it's Bella. Bella! Edward actually isn't upset that Jacob likes Bella. He just can see that Jacob actually really cares about her, and he's like, okay, I kind of appreciate that from him. But Jacob isn't actually a competition at this point because, well, he looks like this right now. Then Edward looks like that. So, you know, as soon as Jacob sees Edward, though, his enthusiasm to see Bella disappears because she's obviously dating this guy now. Bella is about to go get out of the car to deal with the situation, but Edward stops her saying, be careful. The child doesn't actually understand what he's dealing with. She gets offended and he's like, what? And she's like, you just called him a child. He's only like a year younger than me. And you want to know what Edward says to this? He says, oh, don't worry. I know. Straight to jail. Go to jail. Lock him up. What? Oh, sorry, yeah, Billy is also there. Jacob was just the one that they were reading thoughts of because he was just excited to see Bella. Anyways, she goes over to them, and they have, like, a sandwich, and they're like, hey, we wanted to come talk to Charlie. Do you know where he's at? And she's like, no, don't know where he's at. And then Billy tries to start saying some stuff about the Cullens, and Bella basically implies she knows exactly what she's dealing with, and she can handle herself. And Charlie doesn't really need to know anything about that now, does he? And Billy's just stuck there being like, yeah, Charlie wouldn't believe me anyways. While they're having this whole conversation between those two, he sent Jacob off to go look for something in the back of his truck that was definitely not there, so Jacob is just on a goose chase right now, and he's not hearing all of this vampire talk that they're kind of having, but not really. They're keeping it under wraps because technically he's not supposed to tell anybody, and she doesn't want to outright say it, but they both know what they're talking about. Then Jacob finally realizes that he was sent on a goose chase, and he's like, wait a second. And now these two leave. He's still really paranoid that Edward is dating Bella, but he knows if he tells Charlie, it's not going to do anything. Charlie isn't going to believe him if he tells him the Cullens are vampires. Meanwhile, Edward is being sent into this flashback of Carlisle calling Billy and letting him know that they're back. Now, Carlisle was being super nice and polite, just letting them know they're going to be back in the area so they can keep in mind all the rules of the treaty, stuff like that. Super, super polite. And Billy over here is like, the cold ones are back. They're going to kill us all. Oh, no. And never talk to him again after that phone call. Luckily, they just leave. Then Edward actually drives back home himself because he's going to come back later to introduce himself to Charlie that way, and he needs to fill in Carlisle about this whole situation with Billy right now. When he gets home, though, Rose is still throwing a fit. She doesn't want Bella to come to vampire baseball, and she's not going to go if Bella comes. Like a loser. But Edward is able to convince her to go, luckily, because everybody needs to be there for vampire baseball to work. He then quickly runs off to talk to Carlisle about what just happened at Bella's house, then grabs Emmett's souped up Jeep, like big giant monster car looking Jeep, and drives over to Bella's house. This is such an interesting choice of car to meet somebody's dad for the first time, but he takes it. When Edward actually gets close to the house, he pulls over to actually get a sense of their conversation and listen in because vampires just have really good hearing. And he can sense that Charlie is just confused on why Bella wants to go hang out with a guy tonight when she just said she wasn't interested in any guys in this town. Where did Edward come from? He's a guy in this town. What is she talking about? And now she wants to go play baseball with them. His daughter wants to go hang out and watch them play baseball. That doesn't make any sense to him. When Edward gets there, they have the classic introduction. He calls him Chief Swan. Charlie's like, no, call me Charlie. It's all good. And then they go sit down in the living room. Charlie and Bella are on the couch. Edward is in the chair, and they're like, hey, just getting along. Charlie does the whole dad thing of being kind of overprotective, which is reasonable, let's be honest. And now I'm going to be honest, if there's something that happens in between this conversation that's really important and them getting to baseball, I don't remember it and I didn't highlight it because I just kept writing down things about please get to the baseball, I don't care about anything else. And I'm not sorry about it because this is the most iconic scene in any movie ever. Just like Alice with her little leg up in the air throwing the baseball. Cinema. I would play the whole scene right now if YouTube wouldn't be super mad at me for doing that. I can't do that, but maybe like pause this right now, go watch the whole scene, then come back just so you can appreciate the vampire baseball. But I'm gonna talk about it in some detail, even though it's kind of hard to talk about in detail because I don't really understand normal baseball. But here's some of the notes I put on the pages that I forgot to actually like highlight stuff on. I put, I don't care, and then we have boo, give me to baseball. And then we have, oh no, he almost killed her again. But she didn't die, so we're all good. I didn't really need to include that. He just tries to kill her a lot, okay? It wasn't that important. Edward then gets mad at himself for trying to kill her, but she thinks he's mad at him, so she's like, what did I do? They have this whole conversation. He's explaining that he's never angry with her. He's just upset at himself. But during this, I put down, baseball please, ew emotions. I'm a one-track mind at times, okay? And then finally, they get out of this Jeep and I wrote, let's go. When they get there, Rose is still in a mood because she's not really happy that Bella's there still, but Esme is just happy that Bella is gonna be umpire with her. They're gonna keep the rest of these vampires on track. And then Alice comes skipping over saying, it's time. They go off, divide into teams. One team is Jasper, Emmett, and Rose, and the other team is Carlisle, Edward, and Alice. Meanwhile, Esme is filling in Bella that all of these people have horrible sportsmanship and just to go with the flow. And I cannot emphasize enough how sweet Esme's relationship is with just everybody. She's a sweetheart. I love her dearly, and I have a wonderful mom, but Esme could join in and be another mom to me. I would adopt her into my family. I love her. And then we get into baseball. They're hitting the balls really, really hard. They're running after them into the forest. They're going super fast to the bases that are spread out more than normal because vampires run really fast. It's getting competitive. It's gritty. It's fun. I think they're playing by some normal baseball rules. I don't know. When they hit the balls with the bat, it sounds like thunder. This is just peak writing right here. I am in the scene. I am getting drenched with water, watching the vampires play baseball. You know what? In fact, I am playing baseball. In my mind, I'm playing vampire baseball and I'm running into the forest. I'm getting competitive. I'm shoving people. I'm having the time of my life. And then we sadly come to the end of the baseball scene and the end of my chaotic notes about baseball, where I just put, ooh, no more baseball. I have to explain myself. I was losing my mind while reading this book, okay? If that's not clear by all these random notes that I'm bringing up right now, my mind was gone at this point because I think there was only like 200-ish more pages left in this book. I was checked out. I didn't want to be here, but we were still going. But I did know that some exciting things were about to happen. See, they stopped playing baseball because Alice saw the strangers she saw coming in tomorrow night coming in like now. They are in the area. They will be here any minute now. And it wouldn't be that big of a deal if they didn't have an extra delicious human just chilling with them. And the biggest problem is Alice can get no distinct future on what is going to happen with these vampires meeting Bella. There are too many options. She sees fights, she sees no fights, she sees Bella getting killed. There's just option after option after option, and none of them are more likely than another right now. They have Bella take her hair down, hiding all of her human flesh, and just blend in with the group as best as possible. As this group of new vampires is getting closer, Edward can start to hear their mind. The girl in this group is like, hey, I really don't think we should be here. I don't know why Laurent wants to go and meet these people. I just think we should go. If they show any sign of attacking us, I am out of here. And James and Laurent are over here just being like, baseball, 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 baseball. And that's about it. Edward, meanwhile, is just starting to feel guiltier and guiltier and guiltier because he should have known that this was a risk to bring Bella out here with vampires coming in within the next day or so. But he still decided to bring her, and he feels like all the blame is on him. And he should have known there's always something to worry about. Out loud, he just says, I'm sorry, Bella. It was stupid and irresponsible to expose you. I'm so sorry. And then, as they start to see these strangers appearing in the clearing, they turn to face them as a group. Carlisle introduces himself to the group. The girl is still nervous. Both the guys are kind of just chilling. They're trying to size up the situation here. While Carlisle is introducing the rest of the family by saying their names, when he says Jasper's name, Edward realizes what Jasper is doing right now. He is making himself, Bella, and Alice seem so mundane, so boring to look at, that these vampires aren't paying any attention to them. Now, he's making himself part of this mundane effect to just kind of hide the threat level they have in case they decide to do something. He can come in as a surprise. He really cares about Alice and wants to keep her safe, and he knows that if they sent Bella, then it will cause a whole big fight because they will want to kill her. But he's still letting Edward appear as a threat, though, to not make these vampires get too comfortable. When this new group asks if they have room for a few more players for vampire baseball, Carlisle has to inform them that actually they were just gonna head out, but they're more than welcome to join them back at the house and maybe they can play another time while they're in the area. But he does let them know that this is their area. They live here permanently, so they don't want them hunting here. This is their territory. This little coven over here is fascinated by this because they're a group of nomads. Most vampires are nomads, so finding somebody who has a permanent station somewhere is very rare. But they act like they're going to be respectful of their hunting territory and region. They're wanting to know more about their non-nomad lifestyle, and Carlisle's like, yeah, I can tell you more at the house, let's go. He is just trying to get these vampires with them so Edward and a couple others can make a break away with Bella. But when Edward checks in with Alice, every single future she sees right now ends with a standoff. He doesn't know how they get there because these vampires are super chill right now, but for some reason, every future ends with the Cullens standing off against these new vampires, defending Bella. And just as they're all about to walk away, to split up, to be able to get Bella out of there, a little breeze comes through, blowing her scent directly into James's face over here. And he instantly goes into hunting mode. He crouches into a hunting stance. Edward crouches into a stance as well. Jasper drops this illusion he had of these emotions being mundane and boring and all that, and also shows himself as a threat now. It gets real very fast. Laurent is just asking what's going on because them having a human in their group doesn't make any sense. Carlisle simply explains that she's with them, she's part of their group. And he repeats this because James still hasn't relaxed from this hunting stance. James isn't intimidated by Jasper also being there, who he didn't assess as a threat at first. He's just more excited because this makes it more difficult for him, more challenging, and he loves a challenge. Meanwhile, Laurent is just talking to Carlisle like nothing is gonna happen to this human girl. He's like, no, it's fine, we'll come talk with you. So they start to split up. Bella, Edward, Emmett, and Alice take this chance to split up from the rest of the group and as casually as possible get back to his Jeep so they can get Bella out of here. Edward already knows, though, that James over here will be trailing them. He is not going back to that house. He has just started the hunt because James is a tracker. So once he finds a target, he's not giving up until he succeeded at this hunt. He doesn't care how long it takes, and he is a mighty good tracker at that. Once they're in the Jeep driving away from here, Edward is going through Alice's visions, trying to see what she sees for the future, and right now she's just seeing a hotel room for some reason. After they've been driving for a while, she asks where they're taking her, and they say far away from here, but she just demands that they take her back home now. He refuses. She starts screaming, no, you can't do this, Edward. He just hisses out, I have no choice, please understand. And he kind of thinks she's panicking because it seems like she's being kidnapped right now, but no, she's panicking because Charlie understands where she was tonight. She was with Edward, so if she goes missing, all the blame is gonna be on Edward. And Charlie over here is part of the police. He's gonna call the FBI. There are gonna be all hands on deck looking for all the Cullens, and she doesn't want that for them. So she demands they take her back right now so she can make an excuse to Charlie to actually get out of here without him being on alert and tracking down Edward. Alice tells Edward at this point to pull over. They need to make a plan, but he just explodes, explaining to all of them that James is a tracker. Alice again just tells him to pull over. He's still not doing it until Bella shouts, Charlie, you can't leave him there, because she knows that vampire will be able to follow her scent and then it'll lead him to Charlie and he might just kill him. Alice continues to just coax Edward to get the car to stop for a minute so they can just think about what they're doing right now. And in her head, she thinks there's another option besides just running away. That option is to turn Bella into a vampire, because then if James is still tracking her down, she's a vampire. She can't be killed. It'll be fine. But he says, no, I'm not doing that. Emma jumps in now saying, we can just guard Bella until James leaves. Edward still doesn't want to let Bella go back home at all, but Bella is over it and just gets her plan out, explaining, I'm going to go back and I'm going to explain to Charlie why I'm leaving. I'm going to make up a reason that doesn't really involve you so he doesn't send the FBI after you. You are taking me back home. You will give me 15 minutes to get my stuff and I will get out. I promise. I'll tell him I just need to leave, okay? I'll run away. And they're all kind of just stunned, being like, okay, yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea. As they're driving there, they're coming up with a plan for after. They obviously can't just take her in the giant, really obvious Jeep, so they're not gonna do that. But also, Edward can't be the one to go with her, because Charlie isn't stupid. If Bella runs away and Edward isn't in town the next day, what do you think he's gonna think? He's obviously gonna think they ran away together or he convinced her to leave. It's not gonna be good. So it's eventually worked out that Jasper and Alice will actually take Bella in a different car, and Edward, Emmett, and Carlisle will all be this decoy team running away, trying to lead James away from Bella by having something that has her scent on it so he still smells her with them. And lastly, we'll have Esme and Rose that are protecting Charlie from James or Victoria just coming back and killing him. They all actually agree that the best place for Bella to go is Phoenix because it's so obvious it becomes not obvious. Edward really doesn't want to agree to this plan, but he knows it's the one that makes the most sense. He does give Alice a stern look and tells her not to give Bella any ideas. Basically, don't turn Bella into a vampire even if she asks you really nicely, okay? When they finally make it to her house, the tracker isn't there, so they just walk up to the door. Before they go in though, Bella tells him, I love you, don't listen to anything I'm about to say, okay? Then she kicks in the door, walking in screaming, go away, Edward. Charlie is asking, what's going on? She yells at him to leave her alone. Edward is just standing outside being like, I guess this is my part. I'm gonna leave now. Charlie is asking if Edward hurt her. What's going on? Is she okay? She's like, I'm going home. She makes up this whole story about how she fell too far in love with Edward and now she can't just get stuck here like her mom did, so she has to leave. And this breaks Charlie because this is basically exactly what her mom said to Charlie when she left Forks, taking Bella with her. Charlie is trying to reason with her, telling her that she can't leave right now. She can leave in the morning. They'll figure it out. They'll work it out, okay? But she is committed to the bit and she is leaving tonight. And then To put the cherry on top of this performance, after she's packed up in her room, as she's leaving, she says, "I really hate forks." And my heart just always shatters a little bit during the scene for poor Charlie. This poor man is just so happy to have his daughter here, spend time with her, and she pulls this, making him relive the trauma of his wife leaving him. Why did you do that to him? Bella is now driving away in her car because obviously they have to make it look like she's driving away in her car. They can't just have her jump into the giant Jeep they parked a little bit away. That Alice is now single-handedly pushing so they don't have to start the engine and make Charlie realize another car is nearby. Edward just runs in, jumps in the car, gives her a little bit of jump scare, and takes over driving because she is sobbing. But she also knows she did this to protect Charlie as well. As they're driving back to the Cullen house, she starts to worry about Edward because she knows he will be one of the ones leading James away, but he assures her that everything will be just fine. They know what they're doing. When they make it back, the Cullen family that isn't with them is all there, of course, and also Laurent for some reason. Not Victoria or James, just Laurent. He's basically just there like, "I am so sorry. I knew that James would do something like this one day. He is so incredibly stupid. I have no part of this, and I am so sorry about all of this. Please don't kill me right now." And Carlisle basically goes, "Okay, we won't kill you. Get out of the house and don't come back, please, though." And Laurent's like, "Okay, thank you, bye." He does give them a little advice on how to deal with James and advises them that if they want this to stop, they're gonna have to kill James because they have no other choice. James will not stop his hunt for anything. After he leaves, the rest of the Cullens fill everybody else in on the plan that they already came up with. Rose isn't super happy about this, but she agrees. It's because it's kind of life or death right now, Rose. And just deal with it for a second. Let the jealousy slide. Get over your emotions, please, baby girl. The only reason she actually kind of agrees is because if she didn't go with Esme, then Esme would be guarding Charlie alone against Victoria, and she can't imagine anything happening to Esme, which valid. Once everybody has her plans, they say goodbye, they kiss goodbye, and he wonders if a dead heart can break. Then he hops into the giant Jeep with Carlisle and Emmett leading the tracker away from Bella. As they're all driving very fast, leading the tracker away from Bella, he is checking in with Alice through a phone to make sure she knows how to, keep a human alive, like give her water, food, all the normal stuff. Right now, their only goal is to get the tracker somewhere where they can basically corner him and make sure they can get him before he can run away. So they just keep on driving and driving and driving. The way they make him think they have Bella is by having some of her clothes that carry her scents, so the tracker is still smelling her. And throughout this chase, they're messaging Alice about multiple possible different scenarios, asking her if she sees the future on this, how it goes, if she sees the future on it, and she's just replying Y or in for yes or no. Then eventually, as they're going up a hill, Edward starts to change course, and they all know what this means. It's about to get real. So they go. He puts the car on cruise control, and they all jump out and start running after the tracker now, trying to get him. And the Jeep just goes off the side of this mountain they're on. The Jeep is gone. Meanwhile, James over here, he's not terrified that they're coming out to chase him. He's just excited now. He's like, yeah, let's go. He's having the time of his life. Unfortunately, they didn't do a good job cornering him because they end up just chasing him for a long time, and then eventually they lose him because he goes to an airstrip and just takes a plane. During this whole chase scene, he was finding bodies of water to get rid of his scent, so it was taking them a while to find him. Alice would find him, they would run after him, but he was constantly getting a little bit further ahead of them. So they have to call everybody and be like, we lost James. We don't know where James is. He got in the air, and it's not like a scheduled flight. He just stole a small plane and took it himself. Edward and Bella then have a little phone conversation. They're like, you're okay? Oh, I was so worried about you. Oh no, she's checking in to make sure Charlie is still okay. He's still okay. Rose and Esme are guarding him. Everything's going okay there. They're just mainly worried about Bella and where James is going right now. And since these three have lost James, they're like, well, we should probably just join Jasper and Alice in protecting Bella. So off to Phoenix they go. When they finally land in Phoenix, the first thing he senses from Alice is agony. Because Bella isn't there. Bella has made her grand escape to sacrifice herself to save her mother because she believes that James has him. And now they're all trying to desperately find a way to get to Bella before James just kills her because she is on her way straight to him. They try to follow her scent, but outside of the airport, it just disappears because she hopped into a random taxi. They don't know what of the million taxis she's in, so they have to go commit Grand Theft Auto now. Mind you, they have Carlisle's car here because Jasper and Alice drove this car down and drove it to the airport to get them. But no. They need a super fast car, so they go and they find give me a second, a souped up WRX-STI. I don't know what that is. Here's a photo. Is this a real thing? I'm not a car person, but they get this thing and it has turbo in it so it can go super fast and it's labeled as Go-Go 1 and Go-Go 2. This would be me if I had a fast car, I fear. I would be like, yeah, this is my Go-Go juice. So after quickly grabbing Charlie's medical bag from the car, they all go in the Go-Go car. And this book takes the most unexpected turn right now. It turns into a Fast and Furious movie, an F1 race car movie. I don't know. They are speeding through traffic as controlled as possible so they don't get pulled over because they can't handle that right now. But once they're on the highway, they're swerving, they're speeding, they cause an entire wreck, steal a whole different car from a mom, and then get to where Bella is. It is the most insane scene in any Twilight book there has ever been. I was just sitting there reading this like, what do you mean? What is happening right now? Why is there a car chase scene in the middle of a Twilight book? And you know what? It kind of slapped. It kind of slapped. Now, of course, they knew where to go because of Alice, so once they get there, they kick down the door and they start dealing with James. Edward gets the first couple hits, and then Emmett and Jasper take over, and they start destroying him, and he runs over to Bella with Carlisle and Alice. Bella is not doing good. She is losing a lot of blood right now. Her leg is broken, her ribs are broken. She's having a really bad time, but Carlisle is doing his best to stop the bleeding. Alice actually is like, I can't be around her. Her blood smells too good. Edward can though, because he's just so worried about her and he's so in love with her at this point. Feeding off of her isn't even a thought in his mind. So he's just there like, Bella, I'm so sorry, Bella. And Bella's like, ah. Then she starts going on about her hand hurting and she's like, oh my word, it's on fire. Stop the fire. Somebody put the fire out. And they're like, Bella, there is no fire on your hand. But when they look at her hand, there's no fire there, but there is a vampire bite mark, meaning she is turning into a vampire as we speak. The poison is seeping into her blood. And he didn't hit a main vein or anything like that, so it would be a very slow, painful transformation if she turns this way. Alice rejoins this group being like, you can't let it happen this way, Carlisle, because she knows this will be painful. She's asking for Carlisle to turn her in another sense, and Carlisle's like, I'm too busy stopping the blood. I can't focus on that right now. Somebody else would have to do it. Edward's like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not turning her into a vampire. Because all he can think about, once again, is how Rose hates being a vampire. I don't know why he's constantly comparing Bella to Rose because they're not the same person at all, but he is. So he's like, no, she probably doesn't want to be a vampire and I'm not doing that to her. Bella, meanwhile, is just writhing in agony. Alice is screaming at Edward to do something and he's still like, no, I don't want to do it. There has to be something else we can do. And Carlisle looks at him and he's like, okay, so I haven't tried this before, but you could try sucking out the venom from the bite. Edward's like, okay, but doesn't that mean I have to suck her blood out and won't my senses just take over? And what if I can't stop? And Carlisle's like, it's the only way, you can try it. And Edward decides, yeah, know what? Instead of her becoming a vampire and definitely living, I'm going to risk her life to try to get this venom out of her. So he goes to the little bite. He starts sucking her blood through this bite. He can taste the venom in it. He can also taste her delicious, delicious blood as he is sucking this out. And once he finally doesn't sense the venom anymore and can only taste the morphine and her regular blood, Carlisle had applied morphine for the pain a little bit ago, he knows he needs to stop, but he just keeps sucking out her blood. Alice is screaming at him to stop, and eventually he's able to snap himself out of it because he loves Bella so much. Meanwhile, in the background, Jasper and Emmett are just tearing James apart, burning him completely. They're having a grand time right now. James not so much, but these two are having fun. She stops writhing in pain now, and she's like, thank you. And he's like, yeah, I almost killed you, but you're welcome, I guess. And then they ask her where her mom is, and she's like, oh, she wasn't here. They just had a little VHS tape of her calling my name, and that's what he used to lure me here. She's actually fine. So her mom was never here. She sacrificed herself for no reason. She's so smart. And also in this woozy state, she mentions how James knows some sort of history about how Alice became a vampire. Alice is very confused about this, but she's like, okay, we'll deal with that later, I guess. Then Edward picks up Bella and carries her to the car because they gotta go to the hospital like now. Now you may be asking, what are they gonna say when they go to this hospital with this girl that is just beat up really, really bad? Like, what excuse are they coming up with? Don't worry about it. Alice goes in there, she grabs a couple of blood bags that match the type of blood Bella has, which is O negative, I believe. It's one of the O bloods. She takes it, she goes to a hotel, she makes them believe it's a different time, checks in under that time, and then rolls down the stairs out of a window, causing this whole scene, leaving blood on the scene, and then they go back to the hospital. Bella, meanwhile, is already checked in. That's why they changed the time of her check-in at the hotel. Anyway, so basically they're just making this hotel feel like they're about to be sued and lose all their money, but they never actually sue them, so the hotel's like, okay, we'll just make the repairs and it'll all be fine. Great, thank you. Is this plan absolutely insane? Yes. Does it work? Also, yeah, it does. I don't know how. Meanwhile, the vampires are calling Esme and Rose, giving them an update, and then Carlisle calls Charlie to be like, hey, so we came to Phoenix to try to help your kid because she ran away. We were convincing her to come back to Forks, and then she fell out of a hotel window because she fell down the stairs so bad. And Charlie's like, yeah, that's pretty believable. That sounds like Bella. Is she taken care of? Do I need to get down here? Unfortunately, we're really busy at the office, at the cop office, and I can't really leave. So, like, I don't know what to do. And they're like, no, it's fine. We got this covered. Not Esme, her mom, Renee, is coming down. It'll be okay. He's like, I'm so sorry I can't be there, but I really can't be there because, you know, Stephanie forgot to bring him there in the first book, so he can't be there now. Then we just spend multiple days in the hospital because Bella over here has a lot of healing to do. She's stabilized pretty quickly, but she's in a coma for a hot second. Renee. Edward just spends most of this time feeling horribly guilty, and then Renee shows up at some point and she's like, is my baby okay? And when Renee gets there, Edward is like, oh my word, I can hear her thoughts so loud. It sounds like she is screaming into his head, which is funny because if you remember, Charlie, he can barely understand, and Bella, he can't hear at all, but Renee over here is like, wah! After she checks in on Bella and knows she's gonna heal just fine, she has a little time to chit-chat with Edward. They have a normal, like, mother and boyfriend of mother's daughter chit chat, and they're like, okay, you gonna treat her right? Okay, you promise not to hurt her? Cool, great, you seem like a good guy. Meanwhile, Edward's like, I secretly plan to kill your daughter so many times, and I feel so guilty right now because the reason she's like this is kind of because of me, and I just feel like an awful person, but on the outside, he's like, yeah, I'm so happy we could be here to help Bella. They both just end up staying there in the room watching Bella sleep once Renee also falls asleep. Edward has another thing he wants to do. He goes to Alice, he gets the video camera that James had set up in this dance studio that he was trying to kill Bella in to record this whole fiasco to send to Edward. He takes this videotape. Alice doesn't really want him to, but he takes it anyways because he's like, I need to watch this, and goes to a place he thinks he might find some comfort in. He know Carlisle would. He goes to the chapel on the campus and watches this video there. It starts with James at the camera being like, I hope you enjoy the show. It's gonna be so fun. And then it cuts to Bella getting there, hearing the sound of the VHS tape recording of her mom being like, Bella, don't do that again. You scared me, blah, blah, blah. Then when she realizes that this is the tape, James just starts doing this villain monologue stuff. He's like, Edward's gonna come after me after I do this. I'm gonna send this to Edward. Do you have any last words to say to him? And she's like, Edward, don't chase after him. I don't want you to do that. And James is like, what the heck? You're gonna regret saying that. And then the beatdown starts to happen. And during this beatdown, he asks her multiple times if she wants to change her answer and have Edward come after him because he really wants Edward to chase after him. Okay, he like really wants it. It's a little alarming how much he wants somebody to chase after him, but we're not gonna dive into that. Anyways, this beatdown that is really, really brutal, and honestly just the most brutal thing that happens in all of these books besides the birth scene in the later one. Sorry, I was having trauma flashbacks to that. But besides that birth scene, this is by far the most brutal. And it just makes me so uncomfy every time. And if you know the other types of books I read, it doesn't make sense. Like, I read Red Rising, I read big fantasy books with these big fantasy battles, but I think I'm so far removed from those realities, I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't happen. But somebody just getting, like, beat up like this, I'm like, eesh. Ow, that sounds like it hurts a lot because they describe her leg snapping, they describe all the pain she's in, and I'm like, I don't like it. Oh, and also during this beatdown, he's going over some of the Alice lore because Alice was the only person he has ever tracked that actually got away from him. See, she found this older vampire. Alice was already having these visions that she would probably get burned at the stake for, so this older vampire just turned her into a vampire, and that means James can't track her down and eat her anymore, so as punishment to this older vampire, he killed them instead and let Alice live, and Alice is like, that's a lore drop, cool, thanks, I guess. And then finally, he sees them all get there, they save Bella, Emmett and Jasper take care of James, and after the video is completely over, he just crushes this tape recorder in his hand because he never wants to see this again, or have anybody else see this. Alice has already watched it. She knows the lore that she needed for herself already, so nobody else needs to see it. And then Edward does the one thing he can think to do right now, which is go to the altar and pray. He doesn't believe there's any God that will respond to him or that he belongs to, but he has to believe there is a God that would care about Bella because she is so brave, so confident, so kind. He just knows that somebody in the universe has to care about her. And now the next thing that really happens is Bella waking up. Edward is there at the exact time she's gonna wake up because Alice saw future visions of this, and Alice actually gets Renee out of the room so Edward and Bella can have a little reunion and they can fill Bella in on what story they've told everybody else. When she wakes up, the first thing she tries to do is remove the tubing from her nose because that's never comfortable, but Edward stops her and he's like, hey, don't do that. And she's like, you're here. And he's like, yeah, I'm here. Of course I'm here. Everything's okay, but then he explains what happens. Then I don't know if everything is okay after you just explain James just completely destroying her over here. Oh, wait. I think I was gonna get to use this today. Rip. Okay, there we go. Anyways, he goes over everything that happens and he fills her in that Renee is here, Charlie isn't because he was really busy at work and he couldn't get away. And it's like, okay, so you got a broken leg, some ribs, we had to do a blood transfusion on you, you smelled different for a while, didn't like it, but you smell like yourself again, so we're all good. Then she's like, okay, but how did you get the venom out of my system? And he's like, I sucked it out myself. She's like, how did you do that? How did you do that without killing me? And he's like, look, I almost didn't, but my family got me through it. You're not dead. Woo! And then this girl asks if she tastes good. And he's like, yeah. Why are you asking me that, though? Then he fills her in on the whole cover story on how she rolled down the stairs, fell out of a window, all that stuff, and she's like, yeah, that's believable. And he's like, yeah, everybody's believed it so far. You are just that clumsy. She's like, okay, but one problem. What about the actual hotel where this happened at? And he's like, don't worry, Alice got that covered. She figured it out already. And she's like, of course she did. He grows a little curious about something during all of this while their faces are getting closer together as they're talking. They're just slowly like, hey, hey, hey. Anyways, he decides to kiss her right now because she's hooked up to a heart monitor and her heart starts doing some crazy things. Her heart literally skips a beat. Haha, second. Anyways, and then he's like, okay, I gotta be careful. We gotta calm down. We don't want your heart going too crazy. And she's like, but I like kissing you. So they kiss again. And then he's like, okay, people are coming. I gotta stop. I'm gonna go act like I was asleep so you can have that reunion with your mom, okay? She's like, oh, okay. Her mother and her then have this little reunion. They talk about Edward. Edward calls her mom a narcissist in his thoughts. Her mom is telling her how Phil, her husband, got a full-time position with one of the teams in Jacksonville, Florida, so she can now move out there with them. And she's like, no, I want to stay in Forks. And Renee over here is like, is it because of Edward? Because I did that for Charlie, and we all know how that worked out. And she's like, no, it's not just because of Edward over here. I just really like Forks. I like being with Dad, and I'll still visit you, of course, but I want to live in Forks. Now, her mom doesn't love this plan because she knows it really is about the boy, let's be honest here, but she's like, okay, I can't stop you. I guess I'll see you another time because I gotta go catch a plane since you're up now. And her mom just leaves pretty shortly after this little reunion they have because Carlisle and them have it handled. Then her and Edward have another conversation, which kind of sounds like Edward is trying to say goodbye. And the reason for this is because Edward just feels so incredibly guilty about everything that happens. He knows that Bella will be safer when he's not around, so he is trying to get himself out of the picture right now. But seeing this reaction from her, seeing her freak out so bad with him just kind of hinting at saying goodbye, he's like, okay, I need to let her body heal and then I'll do it. So he's just plotting his escape route right now, but acting like he plans to stay. She doesn't really believe it, but she doesn't want to push it any further and have him leave earlier than he's already planning to, so she drops it for now. But there is this underlying anxiety from both of them because they both kind of know he's plotting to leave. Then she just gets knocked out from the medicine she's on right now and cut to the epilogue. Edward and Bella are still together. He's still waiting until she's fully healed. She still has the broken leg, stuff like that. She's still not all the way put back together, so he's like, I can stay a little longer. Right now, what's going on is they're about to go to prom, but Bella doesn't know that. See, Alice got her already. She did her makeup, she did her hair, she got her this nice dress, and Bella over here just thinks it's a special occasion. Bella over here thinks this is what they do before they turn somebody into a vampire, so she's like, wow, let's go! And then when they're in the car, Edward tells her, no, they're going to prom. I'm not turning you into a vampire. Why would I do that? You think this is something you get dressed up for? It's not a fun experience, Bella. She's like, but I want to be a vampire and I don't want to go to prom. Why are you making me go to prom? And the reason he's making her go to prom is because he wants her to have these memories when she's growing up. He doesn't want all her memories to just be her not taking part in any of these life events that she should be having if he wasn't there. So he makes sure she goes with him, even though he's still planning to disappear in a little bit. They haven't even really touched the subject of the future anymore because they're still both in that weird limbo space where they kind of know what's going on, but they don't want to broach that subject because neither of them really want that future, but you know, Edward's gonna run away. We know how New Moon goes. Is that the right book? We know how the book goes. And we all know how the story ends. None of this is new information. They go to prom. Jacob shows up being like, hey, my dad gave me money to tell you to get away from Edward because, you know, stuff. And I really don't want to tell you this. I'm so sorry. This is so awkward. But hey, at least we got to dance together. And then he leaves prom and Edward takes over. After Jacob leaves, the rest of the night is basically just Bella and Edward having normal prom, except Bella is constantly begging Edward to change her into a vampire the entire night. And he's like, No, I'm not gonna do that. You're not turning into a vampire right now. You're at least graduating high school. He's having to explain all the downsides of being a vampire, everything like that. They go outside eventually to just watch the twilight sunset, blah, 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 because it's Twilight. It's a play on the Twilight book, so we gotta mention that it's Twilight again, you know? Anyways, he does get a kind of normal prom night out of her with dancing, stuff like that, but they do stop pretty early on in the night, and that's when all the vampire talk happens, because this girl just really wants to be a vampire, and like Alice said, all the future he sees where Bella doesn't turn into a vampire is not taking her wishes into account. But in this moment, he's just focused on getting her to a normal future where she gets to live a normal life. And this book ends with him planting a kiss on her warm neck. And that is the end. We are finally out of Edward's POV, and we never have to go back to it, hopefully. Now, if you thought this book was like this small, tiny book, no, this is a 658-page long book in Edward's point of view. The words aren't even that big. It's not like big YA font. It's slightly bigger font than some books, but it's not that big of a font. So there are so many words in this book. And like I said earlier, it's half of them just being Edward brooding, being like, I gotta get away from Bella. This isn't good for her. But, I think this concludes my Twilight saga on this channel. Everything has been done. Hopefully there are no more books, because I will be tempted by them and will probably make a video on it. But hopefully no more come out and we're all safe from any future rants about Twilight, because I feel like I've said everything a girl needs to say about Twilight already. But I'm gonna go zone out for a little bit, read some books I actually like to remind me why I like reading so much. But thank you for letting me rant about Twilight for a couple hours. That was really fun for me, and I hope you enjoyed. If you do like these videos, if you do like people recapping books or ranting about books, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, all the normal YouTube stuff, and I will see y'all in the next video I post, hopefully. Okay, bye y'all!